Yo guys, welcome back to Annie Recapping. Sorry to everyone who's been waiting for the poll video. Things have been pretty hectic on my end, so I need a bit more time. But don't worry though, it'll drop next week. Hope you enjoy this one first. Today's story is about a doctor who has a system that can cure literally anything, but every person he helps ends up doing shady stuff and even gets him thrown in prison. Of course, our boy isn't stupid. He takes back all the power he gave them to cure their diseases and then gives them something way worse. This one is extremely satisfying. Make sure you watch till the end. Alright, enough talking, let's dive into the story. I'm a veterinarian who can cure any disease on Earth, even terminal cancer. But I could also heal humans. All I have to do is touch a patient and their disease is gone instantly. My secret system absorbs their sickness into my own body, leaving them completely healed. And the best part, I can take every single disease I've absorbed and transfer it into someone else just by touching them. 3 years ago, my girlfriend Wendy was blind and dying of AIDS. I loved her so much that I absorbed every drop of her sickness into myself. I gave her back her eyesight. I gave her back her life. But damn, how did she repay me? She ran straight into the arms of a wealthy playboy, bribed 18 patients I cured for free, and dragged me to court, demanding I be locked up for 50 years for practicing medicine without a license. They thought they were destroying my life, but fuck no, they had no idea. On the judgment stand, I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just started to laugh. Because I will give back every single disease I ever took away from them. That day, I stand inside the cold courtroom box. Heavy iron chains clink against my wrists. The 18 people I saved are sitting in the witness row, glaring at me like I'm a monster. I turn my head toward the first victim, Granny Doris. I clench my teeth and speak through my raspy throat. Granny Doris, look at me. Did I really harm you? Back then, you came to my clinic crying. You looked so poor and helpless. I didn't just cure your heart disease, your brain tumor, and your high blood pressure for free. I even gave you $200 out of my own pocket for groceries. Is this how you repay my kindness? Granny Doris's face turns ugly. She jumps out of her seat like a crazy wild animal.
"Shut your filthy mouth,"
she screams, her spit flying through the air.
"You tricked me into taking fake medicine. It didn't work at all, and you stole $10,000 of my retirement savings. You heartless, motherless beast. Give me back my money."
She lunges past the wooden railing, charges right up to me, and swings her arm with all her strength. The sound cracks through the entire courtroom like a gunshot. My head jerks to the side. My cheek burns with fire. For 2 seconds, the room goes dead silent. Then, a low laugh creeps out of my chest. That slap didn't break me. It woke me up completely. My eyes turn icy cold. As Granny Doris pulls her hand back, I reach out and lightly brush my fingers against her trembling wrist before the guards can stop her. A bright screen flashes in my mind.
Ding. Successfully delivered heart attack karma to target. Merit score, -1. Ding. Successfully delivered brain cancer karma to target. Merit score, -1. Successfully delivered high blood pressure karma to target. Merit score, -1. Current merit score, 96.
Granny Doris doesn't feel a thing yet. She snaps her chin up, smugly thinking she's about to get rich off my court settlement. A police officer rushes over and grabs her arm.
Order in the court. Sit down.
I look down the line at the other 17 victims. Every single one of them is grinning greedily. They make up wild, fake stories, pulling out fake medical notes, shouting that I poisoned them just to get bigger payouts. As the officers move around to calm the crowd, I lean forward and let my knuckles lightly brush against the wooden railing where the 17 victims are leaning.
Ding. Delivered terminal lung cancer karma. Delivered advanced liver cirrhosis karma. Delivered double kidney failure karma.
One by one, every single sickness I took from them flows right back into their bodies. For those with normal sicknesses, I double the dose. I smirked. Their fates are officially sealed. The judge slams his wooden hammer down hard.
Defendant!
The judge's cold voice echoes through the room.
Do you plead guilty to practicing medicine without a license and swindling these 18 citizens?
I take a deep breath. I open my mouth to speak.
Wait a moment.
A sharp, urgent voice interrupts from the back doors. Everyone turns around. A tall, graceful woman in an expensive suit comes hurrying down the middle aisle, holding a thick stack of papers. It's Stella. I freeze. Stella was my last patient from 3 days ago. She had a rare fatal heart defect. Her family spent millions on imported Western medicine, but nothing worked. I touched her chest, absorbed her heart defect, and cured her completely. Afterward, she tried to give me a check for $1 million, but I turned it down. Why is she here? Did Lucas bribe her too? Is she going to attack me like the rest? Stella doesn't even look at the angry crowd. She walks straight up to the front desk and hands her documents to the judge.
I request to defend the defendant.
Stella announces loudly. The entire room falls dead silent.
These bank transfer records are clear.
Stella says, her voice ringing out.
My client only ever received $3,000 in total donations, and he caused zero physical harm to any of these people. However, because he practiced medicine without an official license, my client is willing to plead guilty to fraud, pay all required court fines, and offer fair compensation to the victims.
Hearing the word compensation, the 18 victims explode into a furious rage.
No way! We don't want just fines.
He's a fake doctor. Send him to prison for 50 years. Lock him up, or we'll never forgive him.
Stella turns her head. Her dark, beautiful eyes glare at the 18 greedy monsters with total coldness.
I am reminding you all,
Stella says sternly,
every single statement made inside this courtroom carries criminal liability. All the money you mentioned can be tracked by the court. Are you 100% sure everything you claim today is true?
The 18 victims instantly go pale. They lock eyes, sweating cold sweat. They know every word out of their mouths was a complete lie made up by Lucas. Stella doesn't give them time to think.
To settle this matter,
Stella continues.
Our client can offer each of you $1 million in compensation.
The 18 people freeze. Then, their eyes pop out of their heads with excitement. They start coughing and grinning like crazy.
1 million! Yes, as long as he pays us for our losses, we are willing to forgive him completely.
After a long discussion, the court has reached a verdict. The judge declares,
The defendant is convicted of practicing medicine without a license and fraud. A total compensation of $19 million is ordered. Furthermore, the defendant is permanently banned from practicing medicine in Valoria.
The live stream camera in the corner explodes with angry comments online.
Wait, that's it? He pays money and doesn't go to jail?
Get out of Valoria, you disgraceful scammer.
I walk out of the courthouse doors. People on the street shout curses at me and throw angry looks, but I don't care. Stella walks up next to me, holding the legal settlement papers. Why did you help me? I ask.
Because you saved my life,
She says softly.
and you didn't ask for a single cent.
I take the paper from her hands. Then I tear the letter of understanding into 3 small paper slips. I place the 3 ripped slips into Stella's hand. I don't have money to repay you right now, I say, looking into her eyes. Keep these 3 pieces of paper. In the future, if you or anyone you know is dying, bring 1 slip to me. I will grant your request 3 times. No matter what illness it is, I will fix it. Stella looks at the tattered paper in her palm, puzzled. But out of politeness, she nods and puts them in her pocket.
Thank you, Dr. Arthur.
She steps into her luxury car and drives away. She has no idea that in just a few months, those 3 tiny slips of paper will become the most valuable items on Earth, fought over by billionaires and world leaders.
Dr. Arthur, could I have a word with you?
A deep voice with a heavy foreign accent speaks behind me. I turn around. Standing there is an old man with a thick white beard flanked by 2 huge bodyguards in black suits, Harrison. 6 months ago, Harrison was a foreign billionaire dying of stage 4 cancer. Western medicine gave up on him. He flew to Valoria as a last resort, and I cured him with a single touch. Back then, Harrison offered me a multi-million-dollar salary to move abroad and be his private doctor. I turned him down because I was a naive idiot who wanted to stay here and save the world. Harrison, I say, my voice flat.
Dr. Arthur, my offer still stands.
I want $1 billion. I cut him off instantly. Harrison blinks, stunned. $1 billion in cash, I state coldly. 6 months from now, I will move to your country, Argonne, under the identity of a foreign exchange student and work as your practitioner for 1 year. Why 6 months later? Because 6 months is more than enough time for me to settle all scores in Valoria first. Harrison doesn't hesitate for a second.
Deal.
Suddenly, my phone buzzes. I pull it out. It's a bank alert stating I received $1 billion in my account. I look at the long line of zeros on the screen and smile so hard. Then, I wave down a taxi and head straight to the nearest car dealership. 10 minutes later, I hand over my card and buy a brand new Porsche Panamera for $1.6 million in cold cash. I sit in the soft leather driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel, and let out a bitter laugh. Poverty had become second nature to me. I had a godlike system, yet I lived like a beggar just to play the saint. Never again. My eyes turn icy cold as I step on the gas pedal. The engine roars. It's time to deal with those two vile snakes. Night falls. Rain pours over the city. I drive the Panamera into a dark alley outside a small rented apartment. Inside the dimly lit room, traditional herbs are scattered across a wooden table. Lucas, wearing a tailor-made suit, picks up a handful of dried leaves and frowns.
Wendy, are you completely sure these cheap weeds are the remedies that cure blindness and cancer?
Lucas asks, looking suspicious.
Based on my medical knowledge, these are just basic herbs.
Wendy, standing beside him, pouts her lips and wraps her arms around his neck playfully.
Young Master Lucas, how can you doubt me?
Wendy whines sweetly.
I betrayed my stupid ex-boyfriend just to steal these formulas for you. Don't you trust my sincerity?
Lucas smiles on the outside, but a look of disgust flashes in his eyes. He squeezes Wendy's waist.
I just want to make sure our pharmaceutical business goes perfectly,
Lucas says.
So there's really no secret trick?
None at all.
Wendy snickers.
That idiot Arthur always acted so mysterious whenever he examined a patient. He'd make them drink a bowl of soup brewed from these exact herbs, and boom, they were cured. He even cured my blindness with it. He tried to trick me into believing he had some kind of superpower. I almost choked to death laughing.
Lucas laughs out loud, dropping his last bit of doubt.
What a complete idiot.
Lucas pulls Wendy close to kiss her. Suddenly, the front door is kicked wide open. Lucas and Wendy jump back in terror. I step through the broken door, my boots dripping wet from the rain.
Arthur?
Wendy screams, her eyes wide.
How did you find us?
Lucas quickly recovers his cool. He sneers, puts his arm around Wendy's waist, and walks right up to me. Weeks ago, Lucas offered me $10,000 to buy my secret formulas for his family's company, Lancaster Pharmaceutical Group. I turned him down because I didn't have any formula. My power came from my system. So Lucas tricked Wendy, bribed my patients, and ruined my life to steal worthless herbs. Lucas stands inches from my face. He lifts his hand and mockingly pats my cheek hard.
Back then, I gave you a chance to take 10 grand, but you blew it.
Lucas sneers, laughing.
You're just a filthy, poor nobody. Did you really think you could take on the Lancaster Pharmaceutical Group? Crushing a bug like you only takes us 1 second.
I don't pull back. I look into his eyes and smile softly. This is entirely your own doing. I reach out and grab Lucas's shoulder firmly.
Ding. System notification. Deducted 1 merit point. Transferred impotence to target. Ding. Deducted 1 merit point. Transferred rabies to target. Ding. Deducted 1 merit point. Transferred AIDS to target. Merit score dropped from 66 to 43.
Lucas winces as an icy chill shoots into his spine, but he shakes it off, thinking he's just imagining things. Feeling smug after giving that brat so much disease, I scoffed at Wendy. So you betray me to take the trash that's full of nasty diseases? Wendy steps forward, her face full of hatred.
Handing out diseases? What a joke!
She mocks me.
Arthur, let me tell you the truth. If it weren't for my eye disease, in 3 years I would have forced you to donate your corneas to me anyway. Did you honestly think a beautiful girl like me would choose a broken, sickly loser like you?
She looks at me like I'm dirt under her shoe.
For 3 whole years, in my eyes, you were nothing more than a dog I could call on at any time. You should feel lucky you had those herbs to fix my eyes, or else those eyes of yours would be gone already. Everything about me now belongs solely to young Master Lucas.
She leans in, wraps her arms around Lucas's neck, and kisses him passionately right in front of my face. This bitch thinks she's breaking my heart. She has no idea that Lucas's blood is now infested with terminal AIDS and rabies. As their lips press together, I step past them and deliberately brush my wrist against Wendy's shoulder.
Ding. Successfully transferred eye membrane disease back to target. Merit score, -1.
I don't give Wendy AIDS or rabies. I only give her back the exact blindness I absorbed from her 3 years ago. With Lucas infected, her future is already going to be a living hell. Lucas then glared at me and sneered.
Why haven't you left yet? Are you planning to sit there and watch us kissing again?
I didn't get angry. Instead, I walked over and flopped right onto their soft leather couch, crossing my legs. Sure, I said with a dark grin. Go ahead and continue. I'll stay right here and cheer you on. Lucas and Wendy froze in utter disbelief. They stared at me like I had completely lost my mind. Wendy's face contorted into a venomous glare. She turned to Lucas, wrapping her arms around him, her voice sickeningly sweet.
Darling, don't waste your time with this frail loser. Let's head over to the master bedroom at your place. It's way more comfortable there than this shabby rental. Come on, let me take care of you.
I watched the two of them walk out the door arm in arm. I let out a dry, cold laugh, stood up, and exited the building into the night. But I only took a few steps down the street before my head started spinning. A sudden wave of intense dizziness hit me, my vision blurred. My skin turned deathly pale, and all the strength drained straight out of my legs. I stumbled against a brick wall, gasping for air.
Ding.
A cold, mechanical voice echoed inside my brain.
System warning. The host possesses a pathogenic constitution. Absorbing illnesses accumulates virtue and enhances your physical body. Likewise, spreading diseases and losing virtue brings physical weakness and misfortune. If your virtue drops into negative numbers, the host will die immediately.
I gasped, cold sweat dripping down my neck. My merit score had dropped all the way down to 43 earlier when I transferred those sicknesses. That was why my body felt like it was falling apart. If I kept dropping my merit, I'd literally kill myself. I need to farm virtue fast, I murmured, gritting my teeth. I can't treat humans anymore without getting sued, but I can open a veterinary clinic. Healing animals will give me tons of merit. I pushed myself off the wall and kept walking down the wet alley. Suddenly, a tiny, faint whimpering sound reached my ears. I pulled out my phone and shone the flashlight down into a foul-smelling drainage ditch. Lying in the filth was a tiny, stray dog, completely covered in mud. Its thin back legs were tightly bound together with sharp metal wire, cutting deep into its flesh. Its little snout was taped shut inside a cracked plastic bucket. Someone had done this to it on purpose. A sharp pang of sadness hit my chest. I knelt down in the dirt, ignored the stench, and carefully lifted the shivering puppy out of the ditch. The moment my fingers touched its wet fur, a system chime rang in my mind.
Ding. System scan. Detected canine patient with 8 diagnosed illnesses: severe skin disease, eye infection, respiratory infection, pharyngitis, acute fever, malnutrition, internal bleeding, and parasite infestation.
Hang on, little guy, I whispered softly. I placed my palm flat against the puppy's chest and activated the system's absorption power. A warm glow flowed from the dog into my palm. In less than 5 seconds, all 8 diseases vanished completely from its small body.
Ding. Successfully cured 8 illnesses. Merit score increased from 43 to 51.
Instantly, the heavy dizziness in my head disappeared. Strength surged back into my muscles. The little puppy opened its bright eyes, wagged its tail like crazy, and began happily licking the mud off my shoes. I stood there, completely stunned. Even a helpless, abused animal knew how to show gratitude when you save its life. But those 18 humans I cured, they tried to ruin me for a payout. From now on, you're coming with me, I said, picking up the pup. I'm calling you Buster. Then I jumped into my $1.6 million Porsche Panamera, put Buster in the passenger seat, and drove straight to the grandest 5-star hotel in the city center. I pulled up to the front entrance under the flashing neon lights. A female attendant in a sharp uniform hurried down the marble steps to open my car door. But when she looked inside and saw me wearing a cheap, muddy hoodie while holding a filthy stray dog, she stopped dead in her tracks. Several wealthy guests walking into the lobby turned around and stared, whispering to each other in confusion. A guy driving a multi-million-dollar supercar, dressed like a beggar, holding a street dog? The sight made no sense. The female attendant forced a fake, rigid smile, but her eyes overflowed with pure condescension and disgust. She clearly thought I was some trashy, uneducated lottery winner.
Sir, my sincerest apologies,
she said in a tight, sugary voice.
Pets are strictly forbidden inside our luxury hotel.
I didn't argue with her, I didn't raise my voice, I simply reached into my pocket, pulled out my solid black international billionaire card, and slid it between my fingers. The attendant's eyes locked onto the black card. The air left her lungs in a sharp, loud gasp. The black card, a card with no spending limit, reserved only for the world's top elite. Clean him thoroughly for me, give him the best food you have, and bring him up to my room, I commanded coldly. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Absolutely no problem at all.
She stammered, bowing her head down to her knees. 10 minutes later, I checked into the massive top-floor presidential suite, under the awestruck gazes of the entire staff. Coincidentally, down on the 12th floor of the exact same hotel, Wendy and Lucas were staying in a luxury suite. Wendy was lying on the king-sized bed, wearing expensive silk lingerie, waiting impatiently. Lucas was standing near the edge of the bed, his face bright red, sweating heavily. He was trying his absolute hardest to get hard, but nothing was happening. The severe impotence I had transferred to him had taken full effect.
What on earth is going on?
Lucas roared in frustration, slamming his fist against the nightstand.
Why isn't it working today?
Wendy put on a charming smile, crawling toward him.
Don't worry, darling. Let me help you out.
She leaned down and tried to encourage him for 20 straight minutes, but no matter what she did, it was completely dead.
Get off me.
Lucas snapped, feeling utterly humiliated. He shoved Wendy away roughly.
Go to sleep.
Wendy fell back onto the pillows, unsatisfied and annoyed. Suddenly, she rubbed her eyes. Her eyelids felt intensely itchy, dry, and burning hot. The eye disease I returned to her was slowly taking hold. Meanwhile, I slept like a baby until noon the next day. After enjoying a $500 breakfast delivered to my room, I took Buster and drove down to the busy Market Street where my old human clinic used to be. The front door of my old clinic was wrapped in heavy police tape and official court seals. I didn't even look at it. I turned around, walked straight across the street, and stepped inside a popular noodle shop. The shop owner came out, wiping his hands on an apron.
Welcome, what can I get you?
I want to buy your shop, I stated plainly. Right now, $2 million cash. The shop owner dropped his tongs. His jaw hit the floor. Within 2 hours, the paperwork was signed, the money was transferred, and the noodle shop was officially mine. I hired a team to strip the building and turn it into a high-end pet hospital. From that day on, I was strictly a veterinarian. I only healed animals again. The next morning, I put on a crisp white lab coat, sat behind my new desk, and shared a bowl of dog treats with Buster. I waited all morning, but not a single customer walked through the door. Well, no rush, I chuckled, standing up and taking off my coat. Time to go buy a house. The night before, while browsing online in my hotel room, I had pre-ordered a multi-million-dollar luxury villa. The back room of my new vet shop was tiny and boiling hot in the summer. Why sleep there when I had hundreds of millions in the bank? 20 minutes later, I pulled up to the massive glass entrance of the Crestview Real Estate Sales Center. I stepped inside the lobby and dialed the phone number of the sales manager assigned to my pre-order. The girl on the phone asked me,
Dr. Arthur, where are you? I'm coming to find you right now.
Simultaneously, a delightful, familiar female voice called out right behind me.
Dr. Arthur?
I turned around. Standing there in a sharp black business suit and black-rimmed glasses was Stella. Her small mouth was slightly open in total shock. She looked at me, then down at her phone, and back at me again. She had never expected that the mysterious ultra-billionaire who pre-ordered their most expensive property was the humble doctor she had defended in court 2 days ago. Where on earth had I gotten hundreds of millions of dollars? Stella quickly recovered, stepping forward with a bright, beautiful smile.
Let me personally show you around, Dr. Arthur,
she said warmly. Lead the way, I replied, with a polite nod. Stella walked me over to the massive 3D model display showing the luxury villa zone. But before we could look at the models, a loud, screeching scream echoed across the lobby.
Are you trying to scam me?
A woman shouted at the top of her lungs.
Who pays $1 billion as a down payment? Call your manager here right now. I'm filing a complaint against you.
I looked over. Shouting at a young salesgirl was an elderly woman in her 50s, wearing cheap farm clothes and waving her hands wildly. It was Wilma, Wendy's mother. Standing right beside her was Wendy, wearing massive black sunglasses to hide her red, swollen eyes. Wilma had dragged Wendy there to buy a house using Lucas's money. She had spent 2 hours picking out the most expensive lakeside mansion worth more than $1 million. But when the sales rep told her the VIP down payment qualification rules required proof of $1 billion in assets, Wilma went completely crazy. Seeing Wendy wearing dark sunglasses inside a building made me smile inwardly. My eye disease karma was spreading through her optic nerves nicely.
Dr. Arthur, please wait here a moment.
Stella said, her brow furrowing.
I'll handle this immediately.
Crestview Real Estate Group was owned entirely by Stella's family. As the top manager, she couldn't let a crazy woman ruin the lobby atmosphere. Stella walked over, used her authority to quiet Wilma down, and redirected them to a smaller villa worth $1 million instead. Wilma muttered curses under her breath, but she agreed. As Stella guided them toward the contract desk, Wilma turned her head and locked eyes with me. Wilma's face instantly turned vicious. She dropped her papers and charged straight toward me like a mad bull.
Why are you following us, you filthy stalker?
Wilma screamed, pointing her bony finger inches from my nose.
Let me warn you, my daughter has a rich, powerful boyfriend now. If you dare bother her again and make her boyfriend mad, I will tear your face apart.
Wendy walked up behind her mother, looking down her nose at me through her dark sunglasses.
Arthur, just stop.
Wendy said coldly, her voice filled with disgust.
Following me here won't make me come back to you. It only makes me despise you even more. Look at yourself. Are you really worthy of me? Did that court lesson the other night not teach you your place?
Wilma jumped up and down, shrieking into my face.
Did you hear my daughter, you frail, sickly loser? Take a look at your pathetic self. What makes you think you're good enough for my girl?
I stood there, listening to them bark, my eyebrows furrowed slightly. Suddenly, a thought popped into my mind. If Wendy died from her terminal sicknesses in a few months, what would happen to Wilma? Wouldn't this poor old woman be left all alone in the world with no one to care for her? I couldn't allow such a tragedy to happen. A mother and daughter should stay together forever. I lifted my hand and lightly brushed my fingers against Wilma's loud, screaming jaw as I stepped back.
Ding! Delivered malignant oral cancer to target. Merit score -1. Current merit score 50.
I smirked. To be honest, I didn't mind losing 1 point of merit for this. After all, as a veterinarian, my job was to deal with wild beasts and keep their packs together. Wilma didn't realize what had just happened. Seeing me step back, she thought I was terrified and trying to run away. She stepped forward, preparing to grab my shirt.
Stop right there.
Stella stepped directly between us. Her voice was hoarse from a mild cold, but it carried an overwhelming, icy authority.
Dr. Arthur is my most important VIP client.
Stella growled, glaring at Wilma and Wendy.
Watch your language. If you continue to act like uneducated hooligans, I will have security throw you out onto the street immediately.
Wilma and Wendy froze. They were completely intimidated by Stella's powerful aura and luxury outfit. Wendy shrank back, terrified to utter another word. Wilma trembled with rage, but she didn't dare push Stella. Instead, she glared at me over Stella's shoulder, spitting out venomous words.
Fine. Protect this poor nobody from the countryside.
Wilma sneered bitterly.
A sickly broke loser like you trying to buy a house here? You can't even afford a bathroom. You might as well go buy yourself a coffin instead.
Stella's hands clenched into tight fists. Her eyes flashed with fury. Just as she was about to call security to drag them out, I reached out and gently patted Stella's shoulder. I looked at the mother and daughter and smiled faintly. You're right, I said calmly. Buying a coffin does sound much more fitting for two clowns who are standing right on the edge of their graves. I turned my back on them and walked away. Arguing with trash like them was like getting bitten by a wild dog. You don't bend down to bite the dog back. That was just unsanitary. Stella took a deep breath, nodded at me, and led me up the private elevator to the top-tier VIP lounge. She pulled out a gold-embossed portfolio and opened the blueprint for the absolute best property in the entire region, the Lakeside Grand Manor.
This development is built strictly for the absolute top elite.
Stella explained, pointing at the blueprint.
It comes with a private lake, a helicopter pad, and full security.
I took one look at the layout and nodded. It's perfect. Let me sign the contract right now. Stella paused, looking at me with deep concern in her eyes.
Dr. Arthur, the total price for this villa, paid in full, is $320 million.
Stella advised softly, trying not to hurt my pride.
If you include all the top-tier custom security and luxury furnishings, the final total comes to $380 million. Maybe you should consider a slightly smaller option.
She knew I used to run a small clinic. She thought I was spending every single cent I had just to prove a point to Wendy and her mother. I looked at Stella's worried face and couldn't help but laugh softly. "Don't worry," I said, pulling out my black card and sliding it onto the glass table. "I'm not stretching myself thin. Swipe the card." At the sales office, Wilma and Wendy were standing near the counter. They had just spent every single cent of their savings to put down a payment on their $1 million villa and sign the contract. When they saw me walk up to the VIP counter with Stella, they didn't leave. They stood nearby, crossing their arms with nasty, mocking grins, eager to watch me get humiliated.
"What are you planning to buy a house with, you broke loser?"
Wilma sneered loudly from outside the room.
"A handful of dirt?"
Stella looked at me, still desperately trying to give me a way out without hurting my feelings.
Dr. Arthur, buying a house is a massive decision that impacts your entire life. How about taking a few days to think it over?
I simply smiled and shook my head. "No need. I'm going to be very busy treating animals from now on. Let's settle it right now with a full cash payment of $380 million. Left with no choice, Stella organized the final purchase documents. Wilma and Wendy burst out laughing from the side, their voices dripping with hatred.
"Oh, listen to him. A convicted fraud who got sued in court. Even $380 million wouldn't be enough to buy coffins for a pathetic dog like you."
I ignored them completely. I picked up the pen and signed my name on the contract without a single second of hesitation. Then I reached into my coat and pulled out a glittering purple and gold World Bank card, slapping it onto the card reader.
Beep. Transaction successful. $380 million. Paid in full.
The loud chime echoed through the entire sales lobby. In that exact split second, the smug, mocking smiles on Wilma and Wendy's faces instantly froze. The color drained from their skin. Their jaws dropped so far they almost hit the floor, their eyes wide with absolute horror and disbelief. Their last shred of hope shattered into dust.
Congratulations, Dr. Arthur, on becoming the official owner of the Lakeside residence.
Stella said with a dazzling, respectful smile, handing back my gold card along with the house keys. "Thank you, Stella," I said politely, picking up the official property deed. I turned around and walked out of the sales center with smooth, relaxed steps, leaving the mother and daughter standing there in total shock, hyperventilating like gasping fish. In the days that followed, my life completely transformed. Thanks to my system, my new veterinary clinic became an overnight sensation. Business was booming so fast that I hired a new receptionist, Alice. She was young, beautiful, fair-skinned with long legs and kept the clinic running smoothly. My life was comfortable and indulgent. On one sunny afternoon, I was lounging on the lobby couch wearing my white doctor's coat, leisurely scrolling through TikTok on my phone. Suddenly, I could hear the sound of sharp high heels ringing out from the front entrance. I assumed it was Alice coming back from lunch, so I casually looked up. The smile on my face vanished instantly. It wasn't Alice, it was Wendy. She stood in the doorway, looking ragged and pale. I stared at her, a cold smirk creeping onto my lips. She had finally come. I had been waiting so long for this moment that the flowers had almost withered. The moment Wendy spotted me resting on the couch, her eyes filled with dramatic tears. She burst into violent sobs and rushed straight toward me.
"Arthur, he doesn't want me anymore,"
she wailed, holding a wrapped gift box in her hands. She threw her arms wide, lunging forward to embrace me. In her mind, she was 100% confident that a single tearful hug would be enough to break my heart and win me back. Just as her body flew toward me, I stepped to the side like a matador dodging a raging bull. Wendy completely missed, stumbling over her broken heels and crashing onto the hardwood floor. I stood over her, letting out a dark, mocking laugh. "He doesn't want you, so you come crawling back to me? Sorry, Wendy, I don't pick up trash." Wendy scrambled up to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Her acting was absolute top tier, the exact same emotional manipulation she had used on me for 3 whole years.
"Arthur, I was wrong.
She sobbed hysterically.
Can we please start over? I swear to God I will truly cherish you this time."
I leaned down, my voice dripping with pure disgust. Do you love me, or do you just love my money and my medical formulas? You realized I have value again, so you want to drain every dollar out of me and dump me in the gutter like before. Wendy, your shamelessness is thicker than the makeup caked on your face. How does a shameless creature like you even exist in this world? Wendy's sobbing instantly froze. A flash of pure panic flickered in her eyes. She couldn't believe it. This was the same fool who used to obey her every single command without question. How had I figured out her exact plan so easily? The real reason she had dropped all her pride and come begging was because her blindness had returned, leaving her vision pitch black at night. But even worse, when she went to the hospital, her blood test had come back positive for HIV, infected by Lucas. Her entire world had collapsed. She had tried calling and texting me 1,000 times, but I had blocked her number long ago. Desperate to survive, she had come here to trick me into curing her at all costs. Seeing that her tears weren't working, Wendy gritted her teeth. She reached up and pulled down her spaghetti strap, exposing her bare shoulder.
Arthur, please.
She whimpered, trying to throw herself onto my lap again. Buster, get here, I barked. Woof! Woof! Buster sprinted out from the back room like a furry missile, flashing his sharp teeth and lunging straight at Wendy's face. Wendy shrieked in horror. She scrambled backward, turned around, and ran for her life out the front door. Buster chased her 3 blocks down the street as she screamed, snapping the heel right off her high shoe.
Arthur, you beast. You will meet a terrible end. You'll regret this.
Her fading voice echoed down the road. 10 minutes later, a happy customer shook my hand near the counter.
Dr. Arthur, you are truly a god. Even my dog's congenital leg paralysis was completely cured by you.
I just did my duty, I smiled politely. Whenever your pets have tricky issues, feel free to bring them to me. I walked the customer out and checked my mental status screen. My accumulated merit points had finally reached 100. Suddenly, the world around me went completely silent. Time felt like it ground to a total halt. I could see a tiny mosquito flapping its wings in super slow motion right in front of my nose. Ding! Disease delivery system upgraded to version 2. Host's pathogenic constitution has been enhanced. Your strength, speed, and reflexes are now 10 times greater than an average human. Unlocked exclusive skill, Phantom Flower Hand. Hyper fast hand speed. Unlocked permanent access to 100 absorbed diseases to deliver at will. A wave of immense power surged through my veins. I looked at my hands, feeling absolute delight.
Boss.
Alice's voice called out from the front lobby.
Someone is here looking for you.
I walked out to the lobby. Sitting nervously on the edge of the couch was a young man wearing a black hoodie, a face mask, and a low hat. Even with his face covered, I recognized him instantly. Walter. One of the 18 ungrateful traitors who had lied about me in court. Walter lowered his head, his hands trembling violently.
Dr. Arthur, please. My kidney failure came back. I'm dying. I'll give you $200 to cure me. $300. $500.
I sat behind my desk, casually sipping my warm tea. I raised my finger and pointed to the large wooden sign hanging on the wall. Read the sign? I said coldly, "This is a veterinary clinic. We only treat animals. Besides, thanks to your testimony in court, I'm permanently banned from treating humans." Walter's eyes went completely hollow. He realized there was zero hope. He slowly stood up and dragged his feet out the door like a living corpse, completely consumed by useless regret. Before Walter even reached the end of the street, the front glass doors were slammed open with a deafening crash. Granny Doris, wearing a thin hospital gown, stormed inside accompanied by her muscular grandson, Dennis!
You heartless scammer.
Granny Doris shrieked, her voice echoing across the street.
My heart disease and high blood pressure came back because of you. Pay me $100,000 in compensation right now, or I won't leave.
I don't owe you a single cent, I said calmly, taking another sip of tea.
You refuse?
Granny Doris roared in an absolute rage.
Dennis, smash this filthy shop to pieces.
Her grandson grabbed a heavy wooden chair and began smashing my decorative display cabinets. Granny Doris grabbed rare antique porcelain vases off the shelves and slammed them onto the tile floor, shattering over $10 million worth of custom artwork into dust. Once everything was destroyed, Granny Doris threw herself onto the sharp glass shards on the floor, screaming at the top of her lungs,
"Help! The doctor is beating an old woman to death. Help!
I didn't panic. I didn't raise my fist. I casually pulled out my phone and dialed the police. 5 minutes later, 3 police cruisers pulled up outside. I walked over to the officers and handed them a flash drive along with a thick stack of legal papers. Officers, here is the pristine 4K surveillance footage showing them breaking into my shop and intentionally destroying my property, I said calmly. And here are the official appraisal certificates proving those destroyed antique vases were worth over $10 million. The officers looked at the video, then looked at the smashed artwork. Their faces turned dead serious. They pulled out heavy iron handcuffs and slapped them straight onto Granny, Doris, and Dennis.
Granny Doris. Dennis, you are under arrest for malicious property destruction exceeding $12 million and criminal extortion.
The officer announced sternly, handing them the official legal court summons. Granny Doris went pale as paper. Overwhelmed by sheer panic, she snatched the legal document, shoved it into her mouth, and tried to chew and swallow it to destroy the evidence. When the officers roughly pinned her grandson to the floor and cuffed his hands behind his back, Granny Doris lost her mind.
My grandson! Don't take my grandson!
She screamed. Her blood pressure skyrocketed to lethal levels. Her returned heart failure and brain tumor triggered simultaneously. Suddenly, Granny Doris collapsed onto the floor, her eyes rolling back into her head as her heart flatlined right there on the tiles. Her grandson cried screaming as the police dragged him away, facing a lifetime in state prison. Over the next 3 days, the remaining 16 ungrateful traders tried to come back one by one. Some knelt on the pavement outside my shop, begging for mercy, while others tried to bribe me with stacks of cash. I just sat inside my air-conditioned shop, sipping tea, watching through the window with a cold smirk as karma tore them apart. Drained of all their savings and rejected by every major hospital in the city, their returned terminal cancers and organ failures flared up all at once. They collapsed across the city streets in agonizing pain, paying the ultimate price for their betrayal. With all 18 traders officially erased, I closed up shop for the night, feeling a wave of absolute catharsis. Later that evening, after eating grilled skewers and drinking cold beer with Alice, I got into my Porsche to drive home. The rain had stopped, but the dark country road was pitch black. Suddenly, my headlights caught something ahead. My heart jumped. I slammed on the brakes, stopping the car just in time. Standing in the exact middle of the road was a tall, slender figure dressed entirely in skin-tight black night gear. Her face was completely covered by a black mask. The only thing visible was a sharp steel dagger glinting dangerously under my high beams. I narrowed my eyes, shifting the car into gear, calculating whether to step on the gas and ram her at full speed. Before I could even press the pedal, the assassin flicked her wrist. The dagger flew through the air like a bullet, slicing straight through my front tire. The tire exploded with a deafening pop, bringing the car to a sudden halt. My heart hammered in my chest. Throwing a knife by hand to blow out a car tire? That was impossible for a normal human. Then I remembered. My body stats were enhanced 10 times over, and I possessed godlike disease skills. I suppressed my fear, opened the car door, and stepped out onto the asphalt. "Who sent you?" I asked coldly.
My boss wants to invite you over for a cup of tea.
The assassin replied. Her voice was cold, smooth, and emotionless.
If you don't want trouble, you'd better behave.
Suddenly, she sprinted toward me at terrifying speed, faster than an Olympic sprinter. My mind raced. Who had hired an assassin to capture me alive? Wendy and Lucas? In a split second, she closed the distance, swinging her hand like a razor-sharp blade straight toward my neck to knock me unconscious. I moved. With my 10 times speed and reflexes, her slow-motion attack was child's play. Phantom Flower Hand! My hands blurred into fleeting shadows, dodging her blade and striking precisely on both sides of her lower back.
Ding. Delivered acute kidney deficiency debuff to target. Merit score -2.
Instantly, all the energy drained from her body. Her knees buckled and she crashed face first onto the asphalt. Before she could recover, I lunged forward, pinning her arms behind her back, and ripped off her black mask in one swift motion. A cascade of long, jet-black hair spilled loose, revealing an icy, world-weary face of breathtaking beauty. "Tell me who hired you and I might let you go," I demanded, pressing her down. The female assassin glared at me with cold, defiant eyes.
Do whatever you want. Kill me or torture me. You won't get a single shred of information out of me.
Oh? I raised an eyebrow, letting out a dark chuckle. You said it yourself. In that case, I won't hold back. I immediately stood up and began unbuckling my leather belt. I've never heard such a weird request in my entire life, I said, walking around behind her. If you want satisfaction, I'll fulfill it completely. The assassin, who had looked completely fearless a second ago, suddenly panicked. Her delicate body began trembling violently, tears shimmering in her cold eyes. The sound of my leather belt sliding out echoed through the quiet night.
As an assassin,
Her icy voice trembled with pure panic.
how can you be such a shameless animal?
I grinned down at her, a glint of coldness flashing in my eyes. My mind drifted back to a strange visit at my shop a few days ago. An old man and his spoiled granddaughter had walked into my clinic. The granddaughter, Melody, had called me an immoral fraud because she had watched the court livestream. But her grandfather, Lionel, the secret billionaire mastermind behind the Lombard Tobacco Corporation, had stepped forward and stopped her. Lionel had revealed that years ago, his son suffered from a rare, incurable hereditary disease, and I had cured him in secret. Now, his granddaughter Melody had developed that exact same hereditary disease, and he needed me to save her life once again. I looked down at the trembling assassin pinned beneath me. Let me guess, I whispered into her ear. Old man Lionel sent you, didn't he? I had turned old man Lionel down cold at my clinic. First, I was slapped with a permanent medical ban by the court. I was strictly forbidden from practicing human medicine in Valoria for the rest of my life. Second, back when Lancaster Pharmaceutical Group framed me, Lionel and his massive Lombard Tobacco Corporation chose to stand by and do absolutely nothing. They turned a blind eye while 18 traitors dragged me through the mud. I didn't expect the old snake to actually hire a deadly assassin to kidnap me straight off the road. If that female assassin had successfully knocked me out and dragged me into the Lombard Manor, I would have been chained up and forced to treat his granddaughter against my will. For the first time in my life, I experienced the dark, terrifying underbelly of upper-class society. So, what did I do with his assassin? I dragged her down into the underground basement of my $380 million lakeside villa, threw heavy iron chains as thick as a man's wrist around her ankles, and locked her securely to a concrete pillar. Meanwhile, inside a grand vintage-style manor on the other side of the city, Melody, the heiress of the Lombard family, was lying in an imported medical bed inside a high-tech ICU room. Her body was hooked up to dozens of heart monitors and IV tubes. Her face was deathly pale as she twisted in unbearable agony. Dark red blood suddenly gushed out of Melody's nose and mouth, splattering across the white bed sheets. The doctors in the room panicked, quickly rushing forward with towels, needles, and blood bags to perform an emergency transfusion. Standing behind the glass window, old man Lionel watched with a heartbroken expression. The hereditary genetic disease of the Lombard family was extremely rare, hitting less than 1 out of every 1,000 family members. And Melody had developed the most violent, severe case in the family's entire history.
Grandpa,
Melody sobbed hysterically, her weak voice trembling through the intercom.
I'm in unbearable pain. Please save me, please.
Lionel held her cold, pale hand tightly through the medical port, his heart bleeding with grief.
Melody, don't be afraid.
Lionel promised, tears streaming down his wrinkled face.
Grandpa sent someone to fetch the miracle doctor. You will be cured very soon.
Only when facing his beloved granddaughter would the powerful tycoon who controlled 70% of Valoria's tobacco market shed a tear. Lionel stepped out of the ICU and walked down the quiet hallway. He turned his head to his chief bodyguard.
How is the capture task coming along?
The bodyguard shifted uncomfortably, sweating cold sweat.
Everything was carried out according to your orders, sir. We contacted the top assassin organization, but there has been zero news from the assassin so far. I suspect she might have taken the $1 million deposit and fled the country.
Impossible.
Lionel snapped instantly. He knew the assassin organization well. They had worked together for years. They would never burn a bridge over a mere $1 million. Lionel's brows furrowed tightly. A sudden, terrible thought flashed in his mind. Did that doctor somehow defeat a professional assassin? Before he could think any further, Melody's older brother, James, came hurrying down the hall.
Grandpa,
James reported quickly.
Stella from Crestview Real Estate is downstairs asking to see you.
Lionel narrowed his aged eyes sneeringly. He knew exactly why she was there. The real estate market was crashing, and Crestview Real Estate was desperately looking for investments to survive. Lionel waved his hand dismissively.
Tell her I am feeling unwell and cannot receive any guests today.
Grandpa, wait.
James added urgently.
She claims she brought someone who has a way to cure my sister.
Lionel's eyes instantly widened. He stayed silent for 3 seconds, then spoke in a cold tone.
Call her up.
A few minutes later, inside an extravagant reception hall, Lionel sat on a leather sofa getting straight to the point.
I heard you have a way to cure my granddaughter.
Stella shook her head honestly.
I don't personally have a cure, but I can recommend an extraordinary doctor to you. His medical skills are divine and mysterious. He can cure Melody.
Another so-called miracle doctor?
Lionel scoffed indifferently.
Famous specialists from all over the world have already failed. What special trick does this person even have?
I don't know his exact method.
Stella replied sincerely.
All I know is that I used to suffer from a fatal, incurable heart defect. Top Western surgeons gave up on me, but he cured me completely using his unique technique.
James stepped forward, pleading.
Grandpa, Melody's condition is getting worse every minute. Let this doctor try. It gives sister another glimmer of hope.
Lionel frowned, leaning forward.
What is his name?
His name is Dr. Arthur.
Stella answered truthfully. Hearing that name, Lionel's face subtly darkened.
You think you can actually convince him to come?
Stella gritted her teeth, laying her card on the table.
Yes, but I have one condition. If he cures Melody, the Lombard Group must invest $200 billion into Crestview Real Estate.
Lionel let out a cold, mocking laugh.
Girl, you dare open your mouth and demand $200 billion? Do you really think I couldn't hire Dr. Arthur myself for $1 billion?
Due to certain reasons, Dr. Arthur was forced into retirement and swore an oath never to practice human medicine again.
Stella responded calmly, holding her ground.
So whether you offer $1 billion or $200 billion, you will never convince him yourself. If you don't believe me, go try it yourself.
Lionel winced, a flash of humiliation passing through his eyes. He had already tried to hire me, failed, and sent an assassin who mysteriously vanished into thin air. He sneered.
Since I can't convince him, what makes you think you can?
Stella reached into her pocket and pulled out a small crumpled piece of paper, one of the 3 slips I had given her outside the courtroom.
Because of this,
Stella said proudly,
when Dr. Arthur was in trouble, I stepped in to defend him. Afterward, he gave me 3 paper slips and promised he would fulfill 3 requests for me in the future, no matter what it was.
Lionel stared at the torn scrap of paper in her hand. Silence fell over the hall. Finally, Lionel nodded slowly.
Fine. I'll give you one chance.
Meanwhile, back at the lakeside villa, I was standing on the edge of the 3rd floor high diving deck, wearing black swimming trunks, preparing to perform a complex dive into my infinity pool below. Suddenly, the front doorbell echoed through the courtyard. I looked down from the high deck and saw a woman in a sharp black business suit standing at the gate. It was Stella. Sensing a gaze from above, Stella looked up. Her eyes caught sight of me standing on the high ledge, showing off my broad shoulders, rock-hard abs, and perfectly sculpted 10 times physical build from my system upgrade. Stella blinked, thinking her eyes were playing tricks on her. Her cheeks instantly flushed bright red. She hurriedly turned her head away, her heart beating fast. What happened to him? She thought in shock. He looks like a totally different person. A few minutes later, I walked into the living room wearing a silk robe and sat on the couch across from her. "What brings you here, Stella?" I asked, pouring a cup of water. Stella hesitated for a second, then looked into my eyes.
To be honest, I came to see Dr. Arthur. I need your help to save someone's life.
I wasn't surprised. A busy heiress like Stella wouldn't visit my house alone just to hang out. "Who is it?" I asked plainly. Stella had no idea about the grudge between me and old man Lionel.
The heiress of the Lombard family, Melody.
My smile vanished instantly. The girl whose grandfather had tried to kidnap me with a knife-throwing assassin. However, because Stella pulled out the paper slip I had given her, I honored my promise. I agreed to go. I drove my Porsche Panamera with Stella straight to the Lombard Manor. We arrived at the Grand Estate 10 minutes later. The second I stepped into the courtyard, I spotted old man Lionel standing near the entrance. My eyes turned icy cold. My expression darkened as I glared at the old man who had tried to put chains on me. Lionel saw me walking behind Stella, and his brows furrowed in deep displeasure. He felt like he had been slapped hard in the face. He had humbled himself to visit my shop before and had been rejected, and now I walked into his house following a young woman. Lionel sneered, speaking in an arrogant, cold tone.
Dr. Arthur might have to wait in line. My granddaughter is currently under the care of a professional medical team.
He placed heavy emphasis on the word professional.
If Dr. Lambert can cure my granddaughter, you can take your leave immediately.
Lionel added coldly. Inside the ICU, the top genetic team from Lancaster Pharmaceutical Group had already taken over. The chief physician was Dr. Lambert, a multidisciplinary expert who had returned from studying abroad 2 years ago. He and 12 assistant doctors surrounded Melody's bed, injecting a bright green custom liquid into her IV lines. Half an hour later, the ICU doors slid open. Dr. Lambert walked out, pulling off his surgical gloves with a proud, confident smirk. Lionel rushed forward eagerly.
Dr. Lambert, how is Melody?
Dr. Lambert puffed out his chest confidently.
Mr. Lombard, relax. Your granddaughter is officially out of danger. With a few more sessions of my team's custom-designed drug, she will make a complete recovery.
Lionel's aged body trembled with raw emotion.
Are your words truly reliable?
Of course. They are 100% true.
Dr. Lambert assured arrogantly.
For 2.5 years, my team studied your family's exact genetic structure. This drug was tailored specifically to destroy this disease.
Lionel burst into hearty, booming laughter.
Wonderful. Divine Dr. Lambert. To express my gratitude, the Lombard Group hereby decides to invest $500 billion into the Lancaster family's hospital expansion project.
Standing nearby, Stella's face turned deathly pale. Her $200 billion deal was completely dead. Lionel turned his head, glaring at Stella and me with absolute coldness.
Girl, you saw it yourself.
Lionel sneered.
Melody is receiving professional care from Dr. Lambert's team. We have zero need for some useless, uncertified fake doctor. Our agreement is officially void.
James stepped forward nervously.
Grandpa?
James, show our guests out.
Lionel barked, waving his hand dismissively. Stella's body trembled violently, feeling like she had been struck by lightning. James walked up to us awkwardly.
Please, both of you, follow me to the exit.
I didn't move. I narrowed my eyes and looked through the thick glass window at Melody lying on the hospital bed. Thanks to my System 2 upgrade, I didn't even need to touch her. A glowing holographic diagnostic vision activated in my mind, showing her internal organs. On the surface, Melody looked peaceful, but inside her chest, the green drug was reacting violently with her mutated blood cells, turning her body into a ticking time bomb. I turned to old man Lionel, my voice calm, cold, and razor sharp. Old man, I suggest you don't act so arrogant just yet. Your granddaughter's condition is a ticking bomb. She will relapse in less than 5 minutes. And when she does, she'll bleed out right in front of your eyes. Dr. Lambert let out a loud, arrogant laugh, looking down at me like I was dirt under his shoe.
May I ask, young man, which prestigious medical school did you graduate from? What professional certifications do you hold? You walked in here empty-handed in casual clothes. Anyone would think you came to beg for food. If I'm not mistaken, you don't even have a medical license, do you?
Lionel glared at me, his wrinkled face full of disgust.
You are arrogant and overconfident. Someone like you thinks you're worthy of associating with the Lombard family?
The two of them worked together seamlessly to humiliate me. I looked at them, letting out a laugh of pure anger. Impressive! Truly living up to the name of a noble family. Let's hope the head of the Lombard family can maintain this arrogance when his granddaughter dies. I turned around, grabbed Stella's hand, and walked out the front doors. Dr. Lambert watched us get driven away, a cold smirk spreading across his face. He knew Stella was desperate for money, and he knew I was banned from practicing medicine. In his mind, he had just won a massive victory, securing a $500 billion hospital investment for the Lancaster family.
Dr. Lambert?
Lionel's voice broke the silence.
May I go see Melody?
Of course. Mr. Lombard, follow me.
Dr. Lambert led Lionel into the ICU, standing beside Melody's hospital bed.
Her vital signs are completely stable.
Dr. Lambert assured proudly.
Within 7 days at most, my team will have her fully recovered.
Lionel trembled as he held Melody's pale hand, tears streaming down his face.
Melody, did you hear that? Dr. Lambert says it will only take 7 days to make you healthy again.
Melody's cold fingers twitched slightly. Lionel was overjoyed, listening to Dr. Lambert boast about his Western medical knowledge. Before the two of them could even finish smiling, Melody's eyes suddenly snapped wide open. Then, a massive mouthful of dark red blood sprayed straight onto Lionel's face. Dr. Lambert froze in terror.
Quick! Stop the bleeding!
Dr. Lambert screamed as his medical team rushed forward with needles and tubes. Melody twisted on the bed, screeching in heart-wrenching agony.
Grandpa, just end my life. I don't want to live anymore. It hurts so much.
Lionel felt like he had been struck by lightning. Sweat poured down Dr. Lambert's face as his hands shook. No matter what drugs they injected, the bleeding wouldn't stop at all. Their custom drug was accelerating her genetic collapse. The ICU descended into complete chaos. James rushed into the room, holding up his trembling grandfather.
Grandpa, are you okay?
Lionel snapped back to reality. He grabbed James's coat, roaring at the top of his lungs.
Where is Dr. Arthur?
James stammered nervously.
I just drove him away.
Lionel delivered a thunderous slap right across James's face, knocking him back.
Who told you to drive him away?
Lionel screamed, grabbing James's shirt.
Hurry up and go. Bring him back, now.
Meanwhile, outside the gates of the Lombard Manor, I sat in the driver's seat of my Porsche Panamera looking at Stella. How much money does your family need to save Crestview real estate? Stella gave a sad, self-deprecating smile.
At least $200 billion. Maybe this is just the fate of my family.
I stayed silent, putting my hand on the steering wheel. A fleet of black cars suddenly chased out from the estate, slamming their brakes and blocking our car. James jumped out, running up to my window, sweating furiously.
Please wait, Dr. Arthur. My grandfather begs you to come back and check on my sister.
Stella's eyes lit up, but remembering how horribly Lionel had treated us, she gritted her teeth and stayed quiet, looking at me. I looked at James through the window with a dark, mischievous smirk. You drove us out like dogs, and now you're calling us back? I sneered. Isn't that ridiculous? Go back and tell Lionel one thing very clearly. He invited me. I didn't beg to come here. Now, forget about signing a $500 billion deal. Even if he offers $1 trillion, I will never set foot in the Lombard family again. James's face turned dark and threatening.
Dr. Arthur, I advise you to consider the big picture. Don't ruin your future for a moment of pride. How dare a mere doctor speak about my grandfather like that?
My response? I slammed my foot onto the gas pedal. The Porsche engine roared like a beast, lurching forward. James shrieked in terror, falling flat on his butt on the pavement as the car sped past.
What are you looking at?
James screamed at his bodyguards, scrambling up.
Get in the cars and follow them.
Inside the driving Porsche, I pulled out my phone and dialed a number on speakerphone.
Dear Dr. Arthur, is there anything you need assistance with?
A voice with a rich English accent answered. It was Harrison, the world-class oil tycoon I had cured of stage 4 cancer. Mr. Harrison, I would like to ask for your help. Can we meet up?
Absolutely.
Harrison replied instantly, sending me the address of a 7-star hotel. 10 minutes later, we pulled up to the hotel entrance. Harrison was standing on the red carpet himself, greeting me with immense warmth and respect. Stella's jaw dropped in absolute shock. She recognized him immediately. Harrison, the founding oil tycoon ranked 3rd on the global billionaire list, with a personal net worth of $900 billion. 2 hours later, Harrison escorted Stella and me back to my car. To save my face, Harrison agreed to collaborate with Stella's company on the spot, investing $200 billion in cash into Crestview real estate immediately. Stella felt like she was dreaming. Suddenly, Stella's phone rang. It was James calling again. She hesitated, then picked it up.
Miss Stella, thank goodness you picked up.
James's anxious voice came through.
My grandfather says the investment deal can still be discussed. Please persuade Dr. Arthur to return.
Stella smiled politely.
Thank you, Mr. James, but I have already secured my investment.
Without waiting for his answer, she hung up and permanently blocked his number. I looked at her in surprise.
Actually,
Stella admitted softly, her face filled with guilt.
if I used my second paper slip, you might have helped them. But after seeing how terribly they treated you, how could I let you endure another round of insult? Besides, I realized these 3 paper slips are priceless. I'm not wasting another one.
I smiled slightly. Looking into my rearview mirror, I noticed 3 black sedans tailing us closely. My eyes narrowed. At the same time, inside the Lombard Manor, James called his grandfather in a rage.
Grandpa, that guy refuses to listen. Gordon and the bodyguards are tailing his car. Why don't we just grab him by force and bring him here?
Lionel's eyes turned dark.
Act only when the time is right.
On the highway, the 3 black sedans suddenly accelerated, surrounding my Porsche and forcing me to brake onto the shoulder. 10 burly bodyguards in black suits stepped out, surrounding my car. Stella panicked, reaching for her phone to call the police. "Stay in the car," I said calmly. I opened the car door and stepped out into the night air. Head bodyguard Gordon stepped forward, his eyes cold.
Dr. Arthur, please come with us.
"What if I refuse?" I asked.
Then we'll have no choice but to offend you.
Gordon waved his hand. All 10 bodyguards charged at me at full speed. They were military-trained elite fighters. But with my System 2 upgrade giving me 10 times physical stats, their movements looked as slow as crawling snails. The corners of my mouth lifted. My hands moved like shadows. In less than 20 seconds, all 10 bodyguards were lying on the asphalt, screaming in pain with broken arms and dislocated shoulders. Inside the Porsche, Stella held her hands over her mouth, her eyes wide with total shock. I stood over Gordon, looking down coldly. "Go tell Lionel this. If he wants treatment, he must first prepare a $500 billion consultation fee and then personally come to my clinic on his knees to beg for my help. If Melody isn't treated by 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, even a god descending from heaven won't save her. Oh, and if he wants to send more assassins to capture me, I'm always ready to deliver more terminal diseases." I turned around, got into my Porsche, and drove away. An hour later, back at the Lombard Manor, Melody lay on the ICU bed, pale and lifeless. Dr. Lambert stood nearby, his forehead drenched in cold sweat, his previous confidence completely shattered.
Mr. Lombard, just give us a few more days. We will definitely find the root cause.
A few more days?
Lionel roared in pure fury, slamming his golden cane onto the floor.
Is my granddaughter's life a lab experiment to you? Look at her. How many more days do you think she has left to live?
Dr. Lambert turned ashen, completely speechless. James stepped into the room.
Grandpa, Gordon and his team have returned.
Lionel walked outside into the hall, only to see all 10 bodyguards limping back, bruised, bloody, and supporting each other. Lionel's face darkened.
What happened?
Gordon lowered his head in terror.
Sir, Dr. Arthur is a true martial grandmaster. None of the 10 of us could touch a single thread of his clothes. He wiped us out in seconds.
Lionel and James froze like statues. A disgraced doctor wiped out 10 elite military bodyguards single-handedly?
Useless fools.
James screamed, kicking Gordon.
10 of you lost to 1 man? Is this a movie?
Lionel stopped James, his voice trembling.
What else did he say?
Gordon stammered.
He said, "You must prepare a $500 billion fee and personally bring the young lady to his clinic to beg for help. He said her condition worsened, and if she isn't treated by 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, she will die."
James fell silent in fear. Lionel's hand holding his cane shook uncontrollably. Earlier, Dr. Arthur had predicted Melody would relapse in 5 minutes, and it happened. Now he set a deadline of 4 o'clock tomorrow. Gordon swallowed hard.
He also said, "If you try to send assassins like Luna again, he is ready for them anytime."
In that moment, the golden cane dropped from Lionel's hand, hitting the floor. Absolute shock and horror filled his eyes. Connecting the dots together, the assassin, Luna, disappearing without a trace, my 10 times physical strength crushing 10 bodyguards, and my godlike medical predictions, the powerful patriarch realized the terrifying truth. I wasn't some helpless doctor at the bottom of society. I was a terrifying, godlike entity.
Prepare the cars.
Lionel whispered weakly. James was stunned.
Grandpa, You're not seriously going to personally beg that country bumpkin, are you?
Dr. Lambert rushed forward desperately.
Mr. Lombard, that guy is just a fraud who was sued in court. You can't fall for his tricks.
Not long after Lionel's sharp command, several black luxury medical vans pulled up directly outside my veterinary clinic. The side doors slid open, and old man Lionel stepped out, guiding a rolling hospital bed carrying his pale granddaughter. Under the shocked gazes of the street crowd, Lionel walked straight up to Stella and me. He lowered his head, bending his waist in a deep, formal bow.
Young lady, Dr. Arthur. This old man sincerely apologizes for the terrible hospitality at the Lombard Manor earlier.
Lionel said, setting aside his lifelong arrogance.
Please accept my humblest apology.
James, who was standing right behind him, went completely pale.
Grandpa, what are you doing? How are these nobodies even worthy of your bow?
Stella stood there, her mouth slightly open. She couldn't believe her eyes. The legendary billionaire who controlled 70% of the nation's tobacco trade had actually come in person to bow and apologize to us. I sat lazily on the lobby couch, watching Melody wince in pain from the bumpy car ride. I picked up my tea glass and took a slow sip. "Please don't do that, Mr. Lombard," I said, a dark smirk playing on my lips. "It's not that I'm unkind, it's just that the standards for noble elite families are far too high. A lowly nobody like me truly can't measure up to them." Lionel's face burned with red embarrassment. He instantly recognized my words. I was throwing the exact insults he had used against me earlier right back into his face. Swallowing his pride for Melody's sake, Lionel waved his hand to his head bodyguard. The bodyguard stepped forward, holding out a sleek, glowing black and gold global bank card.
This card contains $5 billion in cash.
Lionel announced loudly,
"As long as Dr. Arthur cures my granddaughter, this card is yours. Furthermore, the Lombard Group is willing to privately invest another $200 billion into Crestview real estate."
James glared at me with pure jealousy and hatred. Dr. Lambert stood nearby, his eyes wide with envy. $5 billion for a single medical treatment. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, I picked up the $5 billion card between two fingers. Then, I casually tossed it straight into the plastic trash can by my desk. Silence fell over the room. I looked up at Lionel, my voice icy cold. "Is old age catching up with you, making you forget how to count?" What I demanded was $500 billion. Where did the 2 zeros go? James exploded in rage, stepping forward aggressively.
Kid, don't let your greed destroy you. 500 billion? Can a filthy nobody like you even handle that much money?
The 10 bodyguards behind Lionel shifted their feet, glaring at me with hostile, threatening eyes. Lionel's eyes narrowed into sharp slits.
Young friend Arthur, $5 billion plus $200 billion in investment is already more than generous. It's better not to push things too far. Otherwise, terrible things can happen in the very next second.
I leaned back against the couch cushions, speaking in a lazy, unbothered tone. $500 billion. I repeated, "If you're missing even a single cent, get out. Threaten me all you want, but today, I'm gonna show you elite families exactly how valuable I truly am." Lionel trembled with rage, his hands clutching his golden cane so hard his knuckles turned white. But looking at Melody's pale, bleeding lips, he knew she wouldn't survive the night. He gritted his teeth, squeezing the words out of his mouth.
I can offer $300 billion in cash and offset the remaining $200 billion using stock shares from the top companies under the Lombard Group.
I smiled faintly and nodded. $500 billion was an astronomical sum, even for a tycoon like him. Cash plus stock shares was acceptable. Deal. An hour later, an official legal contract was delivered by a team of corporate lawyers. But I didn't sign it. I had Stella sign her name on the contract as the sole owner of the funds and shares. Stella held the pen, feeling like she was living in a fever dream. In a single day, she had secured a $200 billion deal from Harrison, a $200 billion investment, and now $500 billion in cash and shares from the Lombard family. All because of one ripped scrap of paper I had handed her outside the courtroom, and she still had 2 paper slips left.
Is Dr. Arthur ready to make his move now?
Lionel asked in a deep, strained voice. his old dignity completely crushed. This should do it. I smiled, standing up from the couch. I walked over to Melody's rolling bed. Under everyone's watchful eyes, I reached out and tapped the center of her forehead with 2 fingers. Then, without missing a beat, I grabbed the bundle of IV lines, heart monitors, and oxygen tubes attached to her body and ripped them all off in one hard yank. Dr. Lambert screamed in absolute horror.
What are you doing, you maniac? Those are life support devices. Without them, Miss Melody will be in critical danger.
Dr. Lambert tried to rush forward, but I turned my head and glared at him. Are you treating her or am I? Dr. Lambert's face darkened, stepping back in anger.
Fine. I'd love to see how you handle this.
Under the tense gazes of everyone present, Melody, who had been unconscious and weak, miraculously opened her eyes. The bleeding from her mouth stopped completely. Everyone gasped. Dr. Lambert froze in shock. Lionel rushed forward eagerly.
Melody? Are you feeling all right?
Melody winced, speaking weakly.
Grandpa, it hurts.
Dr. Lambert immediately sneered, trying to humiliate me.
Ha! Did you see that, you fake doctor? Miss Melody is clearly not better?
I turned my head and barked at Dr. Lambert. What nonsense are you barking about? I haven't even started healing her yet. How dare you interrupt me, you barking dog? Dr. Lambert's face flushed bright red with embarrassment and rage. Lionel urged me frantically.
Dr. Arthur, please hurry. Don't let my granddaughter suffer.
Melody heard my voice, realized who I was, and began resisting weakly.
No, Grandpa, I don't want this fraud to treat me. He's just a dirty veterinarian. Don't let him touch me.
Lionel spent 10 minutes comforting his stubborn granddaughter, begging her until she finally agreed. I looked around at the crowd with a sharp warning. Let me make this clear. During my treatment, no interruptions are allowed, especially from barking dogs. If anyone interrupts me and something goes wrong, you take full responsibility for her death. I pushed Melody's rolling bed into the clinic's private operating room and locked the heavy door behind us. Inside the quiet operating room, Melody lay on the bed, glaring at me with weak, furious eyes.
Keep your hands and eyes in check.
She threatened coldly.
If you dare look or touch inappropriately, I'll make sure my grandfather destroys you.
I gave her a dark, wicked grin. What a coincidence. This surgery doesn't just require looking, it requires touching from head to toe. Melody's delicate body trembled in horror.
No, get away from me. Your whole body is covered in germs. Don't touch me.
She began crying pitifully like a helpless lamb. I paid no attention to her whining. I grabbed her cold, delicate foot and placed both palms flat against her skin to examine the illness inside her body.
Ding. System scan. Detected target with rare hereditary blood hemorrhage. Grade 2 terminal disease. Absorbing and healing this disease will reward 100 merit points.
My mind blew wide open. New system information flashed in my vision. Diseases had grade levels. Cancer and AIDS were only grade 1 diseases. This rare genetic hemorrhage was a grade 2 disease. That's why curing it rewarded 100 merit points instead of just 1.
Let go of my foot, you pervert.
Melody weakly cursed. I looked at her like she was a giant golden money tree. 100 merit points! I immediately activated my absorption power.
Ah, no. Let me go.
Melody twisted her body, trying to resist. But within 3 seconds, as my hands moved over her skin, absorbing the dark genetic corruption, her cries of pain turned into soft, breathless gasps. Her pale face flushed bright pink. My hands carried magical warmth. Wherever I pressed, the agonizing pain vanished, replaced by an unprecedented wave of pure relief and comfort. The contrast between hell and heaven made Melody feel like she was floating on clouds. She stopped resisting entirely, actively turning over on the bed to cooperate with my hands. Outside the operating room, everyone listened to the strange, breathless gasp sounds echoing through the door. Their eyes widened in utter disbelief. Dr. Lambert was the first to react, turning bright red with outrage.
Listen to that. What on earth is that brute doing inside? How can medical treatment produce such sounds? This is an insult to the medical profession.
Lionel and James looked extremely grim, but remembering my warning, they didn't dare burst in. Stella stood to the side, her face blushing red. It reminded her of when I cured her heart defect 3 days ago. She had made similar sounds back then. Inside the room, after I absorbed the final drop of genetic disease, Melody opened her eyes, hurriedly checking her clothes.
Wait, nothing bad happened?
She whispered in confusion. She looked at me with a complicated gaze.
You really cured me. But why were you convicted during that court live stream? Are you really a fraud? How could the law make a wrong judgment?
What do you think? I let out a cold laugh, not bothering to explain. I turned around, unlocked the door, and swung it open. Dr. Lambert aggressively charged forward to confront me.
You liar. What did you do to Miss Lombard inside?
I grabbed Dr. Lambert by his collar and slammed him violently against the wall. Get out of my way if you know what's good for you, dog, I sneered. Dr. Lambert's head spun from the impact. Just as he was about to blow his top, Melody walked out from behind me, standing completely on her own 2 feet. Dr. Lambert froze like a statue, his eyes nearly popping out of his sockets.
Fake. It has to be fake.
Dr. Lambert screamed hysterically.
This disease cannot be cured this fast. Let me check her.
Unwilling to accept reality, Dr. Lambert and his team rushed forward with their portable medical equipment, repeatedly scanning Melody's body. 10 minutes later, the test results printed out 100% cured, 0 sickness remaining. Dr. Lambert collapsed onto his knees on the floor, his entire worldview shattered into pieces. He had brought a team of top international specialists and spent years studying the disease, while I walked in empty-handed and cured a grade 2 terminal illness in 10 minutes using my bare hands inside a pet clinic. Dr. Lambert stared at the test result, his jaw hanging open in utter disbelief.
How could this be possible? How is this even possible?
His face turned ashen white, looking as if he had just swallowed a pile of garbage. His reaction confirmed the truth to everyone in the room. I had completely cured Melody's fatal hereditary disease. Her genetic illness has been completely eradicated by me, I announced, interrupting Dr. Lambert's stupor. However, she still needs further medication for a full recovery. Lionel rushed forward eagerly.
What kind of medicine does she need? Please tell us, Dr. Arthur.
Have her drink the raw bile of a specific animal every single day. I smiled faintly. Continue this exact treatment for 81 days straight. It cannot be diluted with water, fruit juice, or sugar. It must taste extremely bitter first, then turn sweet.
Grandpa, please no.
Melody shook her head in terror, her little pale face contorting.
I don't want to drink bitter gallbladder every day.
She was a spoiled, pampered heiress who had spent her entire life surrounded by luxury. She had never experienced a single second of hardship in her life, let alone drinking foul, bitter animal bile. I looked down at the pampered little princess, my lips curling into a dark, playful grin. It's fine if you don't drink it, I said nonchalantly. If the illness relapses, blood will gush out from all 7 orifices of your head. Melody's delicate body trembled in fear. Facing my cold, indifferent gaze, she shut her mouth and didn't dare say another word. The transaction with the head of the Lombard family is officially complete, I said, glancing over at Lionel and his entourage. It's getting late, and my humble pet clinic is quite small, so I won't keep you any longer. Lionel gave me a long, deep look. A complex emotion flashed in his cloudy old eyes. A sudden thought crossed his mind. What if I had ordered my family to step in and help Doctor Arthur back when he was framed in court? How different would things be today? But in the business world, there are no what-ifs. There are only gains and losses. Lionel nodded slowly, taking Melody's hand and walking toward the exit. James stepped past me, shooting me a venomous, furious glare. He reluctantly signaled the bodyguards to follow. Seeing James glare at me like a snake, my eyes narrowed. As he walked past my arm, I flicked my wrist in secret, tapping my fingers against the air behind his back.
Ding. Successfully delivered severe migraine karma to target. Merit score -1.
James winced, suddenly clutching his throbbing temple as a sharp headache stabbed his brain. Dr. Lambert, still clutching the swollen side of his face where I had slammed him against the wall, shot me a hateful look before scurrying out the door. Today, his reputation as a world-renowned doctor was completely destroyed because of me. But this experience also made him fully believe Lucas's warning. I possessed godlike medical skills, and Lancaster Pharmaceutical Group would never allow a monster like me to live. Once Lionel, Dr. Lambert, and the bodyguards had left, I turned to Stella and handed her the signed $500 billion stock and cash contract. Let's go finalize the paperwork, I said with a smile. I'll take $20 billion as an investment in my clinic, and the rest is yours to manage. Stella felt uneasy, looking at me with deep gratitude.
Consider this, my management of your personal fortune.
Stella promised solemnly.
I trust your character completely, Dr. Arthur. Furthermore, holding on to stock shares of the Lombard Group's subsidiary companies won't be easy to cash out quickly. Over time, that old fox Lionel might play financial tricks behind our backs. Leave the management to me. I will make sure you don't suffer a single cent of loss.
I smiled and agreed. After all, I completely believed her. Stella was the only one helping me when I was in my lowest. We set off that very night, working endlessly through the dark hours. We drove straight to the World Bank branch in the city to handle the international transfers and asset registrations, not stopping until everything was officially sealed. By early morning, a long wheelbase Rolls-Royce pulled up to the bank entrance to pick Stella up. Before stepping into the car, Stella turned around, looking at me with emotional eyes.
Thank you, Dr. Arthur,
she said sincerely.
Once all the funds are fully settled into your accounts, I will contact you immediately.
Everything that happened today felt like a wild dream to her. If it weren't for my help, saving her family's company would have been a complete impossibility. Who could have guessed? 3 days ago, she showed kindness by helping a disgraced doctor in court. Today, that simple act of kindness was repaid with an empire worth hundreds of billions. Meanwhile, late at night on the highway heading back to the mansion, a motorcade of luxury sedans sped down the road. Inside the lead car, James held an ice pack to his throbbing, screaming head, his face contorted in anger.
Grandpa, I'll call our men right now and have that doctor dragged into an alley.
James snarled.
Until we fully understand his true background and identity, do not act recklessly.
Lionel replied calmly, leaning back against his leather seat.
Are we just going to let the Lombard family suffer a $500 billion loss for nothing?
James spat, unwilling to yield. Lionel let out a sly, cold chuckle.
Rest assured, just because the Lombard family doesn't act, doesn't mean others will sit idly by.
James's eyes lit up.
Are you referring to the Lancaster family?
Dr. Lambert will report everything to the Lancaster family tonight,
Lionel said softly.
They will feel 10 times more panic than us. Since that's the case, let the Lancaster family test that boy's true strength first.
James finally understood his grandfather's genius strategy. He quickly handed Lionel a clean tissue.
Grandpa, what should I do then?
Lionel wiped his mouth, a subtle grin appearing on his face.
Stella is a remarkable woman. I can tell you have feelings for her. Go propose to her tomorrow.
What?
James gasped.
I will provide a $50 billion investment as the engagement gift.
Lionel added calmly. James shuddered with excitement, his face turning bright red.
Thank you, Grandpa. I will go first thing tomorrow morning.
James had been smitten with Stella's elegance since the first time he saw her. Now he saw his grandfather's master plan clearly. Let the Lancaster family go to war with Dr. Arthur. Meanwhile, James would marry Stella, gain access to her heart, and use corporate maneuvers to slowly regain control of the $500 billion contract Stella held. The Lombard family would win everything back without taking a single risk. Understanding this, James's anger vanished completely. He even felt a wave of gratitude toward me for giving him the chance to marry Stella. After parting ways with Stella, I drove my Porsche Panamera back to the lakeside villa. As I pulled up to the main gate of the estate, I ran into two familiar figures walking along the sidewalk, Wendy and her mother, Wilma. The two of them looked like walking corpses returning from the hospital. Wilma's mouth was hanging slightly open, her entire neck wrapped in thick layers of white medical gauze. The loud, screaming woman had been struck completely mute. My delivered oral cancer had flared up violently. Beside her, Wendy was wearing dark sunglasses inside the dark night, coughing blood into a tissue, her skin pale and withered as the returned AIDS and eye disease destroyed her body. Even though they had managed to move into a luxury villa, their lives had turned into a living hell. I gave them a faint, indifferent smile, stepped on the gas, and drove straight past them into my mansion's driveway. I stepped into the living room. The indoor lights were turned on. Lying on the first-floor leather couch was a petite, delicate figure wrapped entirely inside a thick blanket. Only a pair of bare, exquisitely shaped feet peeked out from the edge. Why is Alice sleeping down here? I thought, slightly confused. I walked over and patted her shoulder through the blanket. Wake up, Alice. The figure under the blanket rolled over with unnatural, terrifying speed. A flash of silver light split the air. An icy, razor-sharp butterfly dagger was pressed firmly against the skin of my throat. Under the black mask wasn't Alice. It was a woman dressed in tight, black, tactical night gear. The ambush was so sudden and flawless that even with my 10x physical reflexes, I didn't have time to dodge.
Don't move.
An icy, calm female voice spoke from beneath the black mask.
We can negotiate.
I narrowed my eyes, keeping my voice steady. Where is my receptionist?
She's sleeping peacefully on the second floor.
The assassin replied calmly.
As long as you cooperate with me, I promise both of you will remain completely unharmed.
You're here to rescue the female assassin I chained in the basement, I stated calmly. The woman in black didn't answer. Instead, she used her free hand to pull back the heavy blanket beside her. Lying on the sofa was Luna, the assassin I had locked in heavy iron chains downstairs. Luna glared up at me with eyes full of pure, burning hatred. My mind raced in shock. How had this second assassin bypassed my villa's high-tech security? How had she cracked the basement safe code and unlocked wrist-thick iron chains without making a sound? Before I could speak, the woman in black pulled a solid black global bank card from her tactical vest and tossed it onto the glass coffee table.
This card contains $100 million cash, with the password,
she stated in a tone leaving no room for debate.
Consider it full compensation for our organization's actions against you. As long as we settle this cleanly right now, our guild and our clients will never trouble you or your family ever again.
I looked down at Luna, who was still glaring at me like she wanted to tear my throat out with her teeth. If she wasn't physically drained from my kidney debuff, she would have already lunged at me.
Luna,
the woman in black said, glaring down at her sternly.
This is a direct order from the guild. Are you planning to defy it?
Luna gritted her teeth, holding back her rage.
Fix my body first, Doctor. Undo whatever you did to me, and we'll wipe this slate clean.
The woman in black slowly pulled her butterfly dagger away from my throat, stepping back to show goodwill. I stood there, weighing my options. Ending this feud cleanly was the absolute best outcome for me. An elite assassin guild targeting my parents or my family would be a constant nightmare. I stepped up to Luna, reached out my hand, and tapped her slender waist.
Ding. Absorbed kidney deficiency, debuff. Back from target. Merit score +2.
Instantly, strength and energy surged back into Luna's body. Her pale cheeks regained their color, and she sat up smoothly. She kept her cold, sharp eyes locked on me the entire time.
Dr. Arthur, rest assured,
the woman in black said, giving me a polite nod.
This matter was our fault from the very beginning. From this moment on, our organization will never bother you again. Let's put this behind us.
She grabbed Luna's arm and turned to walk toward the front door. Wait, I called out, stopping them in their tracks. The woman in black and Luna turned back, their expressions filled with confusion. I raised my hand in a swift, blur-like motion and tossed a small pile of items across the room. Knives, lockpicks, smoke bombs, and steel throwing needles slammed onto the coffee table, every single concealed weapon I had stealthily stolen off their bodies while held at knife point. The only things I kept in my grip were two small, sleek steel handguns. The woman in black and Luna went completely pale. They immediately reached for their hidden holsters and waist belts, only to find every single weapon stripped completely bare. Not a single blade was left on them. How on earth had he done that? How could someone pickpocket an elite assassin while being held at knife point, without them feeling a single thing? What kind of godlike hand speed was that? Both women were shaken to their core. I hope you will keep your word, I said, my voice cold as ice. This is the last chance I am giving your organization. If this happens again, no matter how troublesome it might be, I don't mind wiping your entire guild off the face of the earth. As I spoke, I wrapped my right fingers around the steel barrels of the two handguns. I squeezed, and with my 10x physical strength, the solid steel handguns crumpled like soft, wet clay. Metal twisted, sparks flew, and the two guns were effortlessly squished into a solid, useless lump of iron. I tossed the metal ball onto the table. The two female assassins stood frozen in pure awe and horror. They realized in that instant that if they had tried to attack me earlier, they would be two cold corpses lying in my basement right now.
Dr. Arthur, rest assured,
the woman in black said, her voice trembling slightly as she suppressed her panic.
our organization will never recklessly provoke someone as powerful as you.
She stepped forward, picking up the crushed metal ball. As her fingers touched the metal, I executed my phantom flower hand once again, silently drawing back a deadly internal debuff I had secretly placed on her body when her dagger had touched my throat earlier. Double layer insurance. The two women turned into graceful black shadows, leaping out the open balcony and vanishing into the dark night. They had no idea they had just narrowly escaped death. Had they chosen to fight, my basement would have held 2 dead assassins. I let out a long, deep breath. Ending this threat peacefully was the best outcome. Suddenly, my heart tightened. Alice! I turned around and sprinted up the stairs to the 2nd floor. I found her bedroom door and pushed it open. Lying on the bed was my receptionist, Alice. Her sleeping posture was unbelievable, sprawled out flat on her back, snoring rhythmically like a little piggy. Her cherry red lips pouted, with a tiny trail of drool leaking onto her pillow. My mouth twitched. I let out a quiet sigh, gently pulled the door shut, and returned to my own room. The moment my bedroom door clicked shut, the sleeping Alice on the bed suddenly opened her bright, sharp eyes. A sweet, mysterious smile curled at the corner of her lips. Meanwhile, inside a nearby roadside villa in the lakeside estate, Wilma sat at the dining table, her throat wrapped in thick bandages, clutching her neck in unbearable agony from her oral cancer. She spoke with great difficulty, her voice raspy and broken.
Daughter, Mom can't hold on much longer. Talk to your rich husband. Transfer me to a private hospital. Get me a massage chair. And buy us antique gold items for this villa so they hold value.
Wendy sat across from her, her face dark.
No.
Wilma instantly panicked, grabbing Wendy's arm and crying.
Why? Does marrying into a rich family mean you don't care about your mother anymore? How could you be so heartless?
Wendy couldn't take it anymore. She lost her mind. She ripped off her black sunglasses, revealing her bloodshot, rotting, blind eyes. Combined with her deathly pale skin, she looked like a terrifying vampire as she roared at her mother.
Because he doesn't want me anymore. He dumped me. Are you satisfied now?
Wilma recoiled in terror, stepping back.
Daughter, how did you end up like this?
Wendy dropped all her fake pride, sobbing violently.
My blindness came back, and I contracted AIDS. Your wonderful rich son-in-law Lucas gave it to me.
The shocking news hit Wilma like a bolt of lightning. She froze in total panic.
Then have him take us to the Lancaster family's private hospital.
Wilma stuttered.
They run hospitals. How could he leave you like this?
Wendy let out a bitter, broken laugh.
That beast treated me like a toy. When I went to see him, his bodyguards beat me up. He used me to frame Arthur's clinic, promised me cars and houses, and kicked me to the curb when I got sick.
Wilma's face turned ash gray. She collapsed onto the floor. They had used up their entire life savings for the down payment on this villa. Now, they had massive mortgage payments, zero income, oral cancer, blindness, and AIDS. Total despair engulfed the room.
Arthur! Yes, there's still Arthur.
Wilma suddenly gasped, her eyes lighting up with desperate hope.
Daughter, Arthur is still alive. We still have Arthur.
Wendy laughed self-deprecatingly.
I hurt him so much. Do you really think he would look at me again?
Of course he would.
Wilma insisted frantically.
Arthur was your boyfriend for 3 years. He used to visit me every week, buy me expensive supplements, clean my house, and treat me like his own mother. He's kind and simple. He won't leave us to die.
Wendy fell silent. Her mind drifted back over the past 3 years. Arthur had treated her like a fragile princess, bringing her gifts every holiday, taking care of her every need. Tears tinged with blood leaked from her rotting eyes as overwhelming regret filled her heart. She desperately wished she could go back in time.
Don't cry, daughter.
Wilma comforted her.
Arthur is honest and good-hearted. He will forgive you. We were family after all.
Wendy stayed silent for a moment, then dropped another bombshell.
Mother, I'm pregnant.
Wilma was stunned. Then her face lit up.
Is it Arthur's?
Wendy shook her head.
No, it's someone else.
Wilma's eyes sparkled greedily.
Lucas, then we can demand millions in child support.
Wendy shook her head again, crying quietly.
It's not Lucas either. To raise money for my treatment after Lucas dumped me, I had to sell my body to random men. I don't know whose child it is.
Wilma's eyes flashed with evil cunning.
No, daughter. Listen to me. This child belongs to Arthur. I'm sure he will love it.
Wendy froze in shock.
Mother, I never even let Arthur touch my hand in 3 years. How could he believe the baby is his?
Wilma made a ruthless decision.
Hurry up and make peace with him. The baby was just conceived. By the time it's born, whose child it is won't matter.
Wendy hesitated.
I have AIDS right now, and he rejected me last time. Plus, I saw a beautiful girl at his clinic who might be his new girlfriend.
Wilma grabbed Wendy's shoulders, scheming wildly.
Why don't we wait for perfect timing and make a move? Dress up in an innocent, sweet girl outfit. Go to his work or somewhere with a lot of people and propose to him publicly.
Traditionally, men propose to women, so if you humble yourself publicly like that, he'll be moved to tears and forced to accept you. Wendy was stunned.
Mom, I'll do it.
Wendy's gaze turned resolute.
I have to win Arthur back. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to him.
That's my goal.
Wilma sighed in relief.
Arthur is a good, honest kid. He deserves your love.
The next morning, following our plan, I took Alice out for a fried chicken lunch, then drove down to the snack street to check on my original clinic building. As we turned the corner into the busy street, I spotted my old clinic in the distance. Parked directly outside the building were 3 black law enforcement cruisers, surrounded by several uniformed officers.
You must be Dr. Arthur.
Several officers moved in, surrounding me in a tight circle. Leading the group was a sharp-featured, stern-looking, middle-aged woman wearing a detective badge. I am Dr. Arthur, I said, frowning as I looked at the hostile officers.
You are suspected of running an illegal, unlicensed medical operation.
Detective Lawson said coldly.
Please come with us to the station.
Illegal operation? What law did I break? I sneered. I already had a pretty good idea of who was behind this.
Stop wasting time. You'll find out when you get there.
Detective Lawson snapped impatiently. She unclipped a heavy electric stun baton from her belt, clutching it tightly, her thumb resting on the switch. She looked ready to shock me the second I dared to resist. I frowned deeply, turning my head to look at Alice, who was standing beside me, trembling with fear. Stay here and watch the shop, Alice, I said softly.
Be careful, shopkeeper.
Alice called out, her delicate face filled with worry. Before I could say another word, 2 officers stepped forward aggressively, slapped heavy iron handcuffs onto my wrists, and shoved me into the back of the law enforcement van. On the drive to the station, Detective Lawson sat across from me in the dark van, her eyes narrowed venomously. Suddenly, she pulled out a short rubber truncheon and launched a sneaky, brutal strike straight into my side. She deliberately avoided my vital organs, striking soft muscle to cause agonizing internal bleeding without leaving visible surface bruises. I turned my head and stared at this evil woman. Lawson met my gaze and flashed a sinister, mocking grin. She raised the truncheon to strike my ribs again. I smiled. I completely let go of my hesitation. I wasn't holding back my merit points anymore. Anyone who dared to torture me received a terminal death sentence on the spot. As her arm brushed against my knee, I activated my system transfer.
Ding. Successfully delivered. Stage 4. Cervical cancer karma to target. Merit score, -1. Ding. Successfully delivered stomach cancer karma to target. Merit score, -1. Ding. Successfully delivered trigeminal neuralgia karma to target. Merit score, -1. Current merit score, 47.
Detective Lawson had no idea that 3 lethal, incurable diseases had just been injected directly into her nervous system. She sat back, smirking smugly, thinking she had broken my spirit. 10 minutes later, I was dragged into a dark, foul-smelling interrogation room and chained to a metal chair. Detective Lawson walked in, slamming a thick stack of paper onto the metal table in front of me.
Your funeral clothing store is suspected of unsanitary practices, price gouging, and illegal medical activities.
Lawson said coldly.
Furthermore, you are now the prime suspect in an unsolved rape and murder case. Sign this confession and admit to your crimes.
I looked at the malicious female detective and let out a dry laugh. Rape and murder? Where is your evidence?
Evidence?
Lawson's eyes turned razor sharp, like a hawk looking at prey. She flashed a sinister smile.
If I say you're guilty, you're guilty. But since you're begging for proof, I'll give you your proof.
She calmly turned around, walked to the wall, and switched off the surveillance camera. The heavy metal door swung open. 5 burly enforcement guards holding heavy wooden and steel batons stepped inside. Each of them had a sadistic, menacing grin on his face as they cracked their knuckles. The batons in their hands were all the proof they needed. Detective Lawson stood over me, demanding,
Now, do you confess to your crimes?
My eyes turned icy cold. They were going to beat a forced confession out of me, a dirty trick they had clearly performed 100 times before. They were trying to force me into giving up everything. Suddenly, a hidden side door opened. A short, stout, middle-aged man wearing expensive gold-rimmed glasses walked out with a warm, friendly smile. Following right behind him was a man with a heavy, receding hairline. My eyes narrowed. I didn't recognize the short man, but I instantly recognized the guy behind him, Dr. Lambert. The Lancaster family was making their second move against me, using police influence to trap me. He stared at me with a cold, gloomy sneer. The night before, after Dr. Lambert witnessed me cure Melody's genetic disease, he ran back and reported the truth to the Lancaster family leadership. The entire board was terrified. They held an emergency meeting and reached a unanimous decision: force Dr. Arthur to work as a slave for Lancaster Pharmaceutical or destroy him completely. No one is allowed to threaten Lancaster's medical monopoly in Valoria.
It's a pleasure to meet you, young friend Arthur,
the short man said warmly, stepping forward and extending his hand through the table gap.
I forgot to introduce myself. I am Lawrence, chairman of the Lancaster Medical Group.
Looking at his smiling tiger face, the corners of my mouth curled into a dark grin. I extended my hand and shook his palm warmly.
Ding. Successfully delivered mental confusion debuff to target. Merit score -1.
Then I turned and enthusiastically shook hands with Dr. Lambert. Expert Lambert, long time no see.
Ding. Successfully delivered cerebral palsy to target. Merit score -1. Ding. Successfully delivered mental disorder karma to target. Merit score -1.
I felt that one case of cerebral palsy wasn't enough for Dr. Lambert, so I added a severe mental disorder to complete the package. Dr. Lambert was briefly stunned, then yanked his hand back in disgust, inwardly mocking me for trying to kiss up to him too late. Seeing how cooperative I appeared, Chairman Lawrence's smile deepened.
Dr. Arthur, I have heard of your exceptional medical skills,
Lawrence said smoothly.
The Lancaster Corporation has always upheld the noble principle of saving lives. That's why I invited you here today. I wish to sincerely invite you to join Lancaster Corporation so we can work together to benefit humanity.
I sneered inside. Invited me? You dragged me here in handcuffs. Chairman Lawrence, your way of inviting guests is truly unique, I said sarcastically. I might have medical skills, but as of right now, I don't even have a license to practice medicine.
That's a minor detail.
Lawrence laughed warmly, dangling massive temptations.
As long as you join Lancaster Corporation, I can immediately restore your medical license, make you a world-famous physician, and shower you with endless wealth, luxury cars, and beautiful celebrities.
And what if I refuse? I asked with a faint smile. Lawrence's warm eyes instantly narrowed. He pulled out a new contract, placing it right beside Detective Lawson's murder confession letter.
Lancaster Corporation can make you famous. Or we can bury you underground forever,
Lawrence whispered, his smile turning deadly cold.
And this won't stop with you. It will extend to your parents, your friends, and your entire family. You are a smart man, Arthur. Think carefully about your loved ones before you choose.
A sharp glint of murderous fury flashed deep inside my eyes. I stared at the old fox, my face melting into a bright, innocent smile. Since the Lancaster Group is so eager to welcome me, I said smoothly, then I might as well graciously accept. Rest assured, I will definitely bring unimaginable glory to your entire family. Without reading a single line, I picked up the pen and signed my name across the contract. Since the Lancaster family wanted me so badly, I decided to fulfill their wish. I was going to move into their home and serve as their personal plague god.
Young Master Arthur truly proves to be a clever man.
Lawrence burst into hearty, triumphant laughter.
Release him. We are all on the same side now.
Lawrence believed he had just acquired a godlike doctor slave for his company. He had no idea he had just invited the ultimate harbinger of apocalyptic disease straight into his family's inner sanctuary. I walked out of the police station alongside Lawrence, surrounded by 8 heavily armed bodyguards keeping close watch on me as we stepped into a luxury limousine. Mr. Lawrence, where are we heading? I asked with a pleasant smile.
To the Lancaster family estate. Of course.
Lawrence replied with a meaningful grin.
We are holding a grand welcome reception for you tonight. Everyone is eager to see your medical skills.
That's wonderful to hear, I smiled innocently. I have high expectations for everyone in the Lancaster family as well.
At the reception,
Lawrence added with a subtle, threatening tone.
You will need to cure my son, Lucas, in front of all our elite guests. This is your chance to prove your loyalty.
I patted my chest enthusiastically. Don't worry, Mr. Lawrence. Since I've made up my mind to serve the Lancaster Group, I will give my absolute all and dedicate myself completely. Lawrence couldn't hold back his delight, bursting into loud laughter. Beside us, Dr. Lambert smirked fiercely, believing I had turned into a submissive, fearful dog because I was terrified of Lancaster's power. He couldn't wait to command me like a slave. Little did they know, I didn't agree to treat the Lancaster family to cure them. I agreed so I could use this grand party to infect every single member of the Lancaster dynasty with terminal horrors. Inside the top-floor executive suite of the Lancaster Group headquarters, crystal glasses clinked together with a sharp chime. Chairman Lawrence took a slow sip of 100-year-old cognac, a triumphant grin spreading across his face. Beside him, Dr. Lambert leaned against the mahogany desk, letting out a loud, mocking laugh.
Chairman Lawrence, your strategy was absolute perfection.
Dr. Lambert praised arrogantly.
That arrogant Arthur thought he was invincible just because he had some miraculous tricks. But the moment Detective Lawson brought out the heavy batons and threatened his family, he signed the contract like a good little dog.
Even a miracle doctor is just a dog when put on a leash.
Lawrence sneered, swirling the amber liquid in his glass.
He thinks he's playing the hero. He doesn't realize he just signed away his entire life to the Lancaster family.
Lawrence set his glass down, his eyes gleaming with immense corporate greed.
We aren't going to hide him in a dark lab,
Lawrence declared, standing up.
Tonight, we strike while the iron is hot. Order our public relations team to rent the main hall of the Valoria International Convention Center. We are holding a global press conference and live medical showcase.
Dr. Lambert's eyes lit up.
A live showcase?
Exactly.
Lawrence grinned broadly.
We will broadcast his divine medical skills live across international television and TikTok. The entire world will see that Lancaster Group has acquired the ultimate miracle doctor. By tomorrow morning, our corporate stock prices will skyrocket by hundreds of billions, cementing our absolute medical monopoly across the entire continent.
Meanwhile, down in the VIP holding lounge, I sat casually on a plush leather sofa. 4 heavily armed Lancaster bodyguards stood near the doorway, keeping their cold, sharp eyes locked onto my every move. They thought I was a broken, terrified prisoner who had surrendered out of fear for my family. They had no idea. While the guards turned their heads for a fraction of a second, I tapped my fingers against my thigh in a rhythm, activating my 10x speed. In less than 0.2 of a second, I pulled out a razor-thin satellite transceiver provided by Harrison, typed a quick message, and tucked it back into my sleeve. I smirked. My plan was perfect. I sent Stella a message to prepare the feed, to also bring Harrison's media team because the show starts tonight. A faint, icy smile touched my lips. Lawrence, you think you've put me on a leash? You have no idea. You just invited the plague god himself onto your stage. Within 3 short hours, the Lancaster Group spent tens of millions of dollars plastering advertisements across every digital billboard, news channel, and social media platform in Valoria. Emergency global broadcast, the unveiling of Valoria's greatest medical discovery. The news blew up the internet instantly. Front row VIP passes were distributed to the most influential figures in the country. Old man Lionel Lombard and his grandson James received their invitations directly from Lawrence. Lionel sat in his private limousine, reading the gold embossed ticket with a cold, calculating expression. He wanted to see with his own eyes if I had truly become Lancaster's obedient puppet, and if so, how the Lombard Group could destroy both of us afterward. In another corner of the city, Lucas stepped out of a high-end designer suit shop, adjusting his silk necktie. He held a VIP press pass that Dr. Lambert had personally rewarded him with for helping frame my clinic.
That broke loser Arthur thought he could fight the Lancaster family.
Lucas sneered to his wealthy friends, downing a glass of expensive champagne.
Look at him now, forced to work as our family's house dog. Tonight, I'm going to sit in the very front row and watch him perform like a trained circus monkey.
He let out a hearty laugh, completely oblivious to the terminal AIDS, rabies, and impotence mutating deep inside his blood cells. Meanwhile, near the back of the ticket queue outside the convention center, 2 ragged figures stood huddled together in the shadow of an alley. Wilma's entire neck was wrapped in thick yellowed medical gauze to hide her raging oral cancer, leaving her only able to emit raspy, wheezing grunts. Beside her, Wendy was wearing a pure white, innocent-looking student dress, her skin deathly pale, coughing blood into a crumpled napkin. Her failing eyes could barely register the bright neon lights above. They had used up the very last of their emergency cash to buy scalped press passes.
Daughter, remember the plan.
Wilma wheezed painfully through her bandaged mouth, shoving a cheap bouquet of red roses and a velvet ring box into Wendy's trembling hands.
Once the live camera points at Arthur on stage, you run up there, drop to your knees, and propose to him publicly. With tens of millions of people watching online, he won't dare turn you down. He'll be forced to take you back to save his public image.
Wendy clutched the cheap flowers, tears tinged with blood leaking from beneath her dark sunglasses.
Arthur,
she whimpered softly, her mind filled with desperate, twisted hope.
I'm coming back to you.
By 7 o'clock in the evening, the Valoria International Convention Center was packed to absolute capacity. Dozens of satellite news trucks lined the streets outside. Flashbulbs exploded like a lightning storm as high society billionaires, top medical experts, and international journalists streamed into the main hall. Inside, the grand auditorium featured a massive, state-of-the-art 4K LED backdrop screen spanning over 100 feet. The heavy back doors swung open. Surrounded by 8 muscular Lancaster bodyguards in black suits, I walked down the central aisle toward the stage. I wore a crisp, simple white lab coat over my shirt. My steps were smooth and relaxed, my posture perfectly erect. Dr. Lambert walked right beside me, misinterpreting my total calm as complete psychological defeat. He smirked smugly, adjusting his glasses like a master leading his prized racehorse out for auction. As I approached the front row, my cold eyes casually swept over the crowd. There sat Lucas, preening like a proud peacock, holding a glass of champagne and winking mockingly at me. There sat Lionel and James Lombard, whispering dark financial strategies into their phones. And near the back press row, I spotted Wendy and Wilma huddled together, Wendy clutching her cheap flowers, her hands shaking uncontrollably as her nervous system deteriorated. I pulled my gaze back and stepped onto the grand stage. The red live indicators on over 50 news cameras lit up simultaneously. The online stream view count shattered records instantly, surging past 50 million live viewers within seconds. Spotlights flashed down from the ceiling, illuminating the center of the stage. Chairman Lawrence Lancaster stepped up to the crystal podium under a thunderous roar of applause from bribed media representatives and eager investors.
Distinguished guests, esteemed journalists, and viewers tuning in from around the globe, welcome.
Lawrence boomed. His voice echoed through the massive speakers with self-righteous pride.
Today, Lancaster Pharmaceutical Group marks a historic milestone for human civilization.
He paused, letting the dramatic effect build before gesturing grandly toward me.
Recently, there were certain tragic misunderstandings regarding a young, unlicensed genius named Dr. Arthur.
Lawrence spun effortlessly, his face full of fake warmth.
Many claimed he was a scammer, but our Lancaster Corporation believes in talent. We have generously resolved his legal troubles and officially welcomed Dr. Arthur into our research family as our chief medical consultant.
Dr. Lambert stood near the podium, puffing out his chest and smiling proudly for the cameras. The media exploded into a flurry of camera flashes and recorded applause.
And now, to demonstrate our commitment to saving humanity,
Lawrence's voice rose to a dramatic crescendo.
We will perform an absolute medical miracle live on camera.
Lawrence raised his hand, signaling the backstage crew. 2 medical assistants pushed a sleek, specialized motorized wheelchair onto the center of the stage. Sitting in the wheelchair was a young man in his mid-20s, Lawrence's younger nephew, Julian. His legs were completely withered, his back hunched at a horrific angle, suffering from a severe, agonizing chronic spinal paralysis that had left him bedridden for over 10 years.
This is my own blood relative, Julian,
Lawrence announced loudly to the roaring audience.
For 10 years, top Western surgeons declared him permanently paralyzed. But today, right before the eyes of 50 million live viewers, Dr. Arthur will utilize Lancaster Group's newest medical initiative to restore his health completely.
The crowd went wildly electric. The online chat exploded with millions of glowing comments praising the Lancaster family's generosity. Lawrence stepped away from the podium, walking over to stand beside me. Under the blinding glare of the spotlights, Lawrence leaned his head close to my ear, whispering in an icy, razor-sharp tone that only I could hear.
Perform well, kid.
Lawrence growled softly, a sinister smirk curling his lips.
Remember, your parents' lives and your own future are sitting right in the palm of my hand. Give us a good show.
I slowly turned my head. I didn't look at Lawrence. I didn't look at Dr. Lambert. Instead, I turned my body and looked straight into the lens of the high-definition main broadcast camera. The room fell dead silent. The online view count spiked past 80 million. Instead of the fear, submission, or panic that Lawrence expected to see, a faint, chilling, razor-sharp smile slowly spread across my face. My dark eyes turned icy cold as I spoke my internal monologue softly into the quiet room. You built the grand stage, you gathered the crowd, you brought the world's cameras. I raised my hand, my fingers lightly brushing against the crisp white collar of my doctor's coat. Now, it's time to settle every single debt in full. I stepped up to Julian's wheelchair. The young man was shivering violently, his hands clutching his withered thighs, his face twisted in agonizing, chronic pain. "Don't be afraid," I whispered gently. I reached out and placed both flat palms firmly against his twisted spine. Phantom flower hand. My hands blurred into warm, fleeting shadows over his back, activating the system's grade, 2 absorption power.
Ding. Successfully absorbed. Grade 2 spinal affliction. Merit score increased from 47 to 147.
A wave of intense golden vitality surged into my body, completely refreshing my stamina. Simultaneously, a series of sharp, mechanical crack, 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 crack sounds echoed from Julian's back. His hunched spine straightened into perfect alignment. The pale, deathly gray color on his cheeks vanished, replaced by a healthy, ruddy glow. Julian's eyes snapped wide open. He gasped in utter shock, looking down at his hands, then at his feet. Slowly, he moved his toes, then his ankles. Under the blinding spotlights, Julian gripped the armrests and stood up directly out of his wheelchair, standing completely upright on his own 2 feet for the first time in 10 years.
I can stand!
Julian sobbed hysterically, taking 3 firm steps forward across the stage.
I'm cured! I'm completely cured!
The entire auditorium erupted into sheer, unadulterated shock. Hundreds of journalists leaped out of their seats, camera flashbulbs exploding like a lightning storm.
A miracle! It's a genuine medical miracle!
He cured 10 years of paralysis in 5 seconds.
Seeing this godlike display, Chairman Lawrence and Dr. Lambert practically drooled with raw corporate greed. They rushed forward to the front of the stage, eager to claim all the glory for Lancaster Pharmaceutical Group. As Lawrence brushed past me to grab the podium, I casually leaned back, letting my coat sleeve lightly drag against his waist.
Ding! Successfully delivered acute stomach cancer debuff to Lawrence Lancaster. Merit score, -1.
Dr. Lambert pushed past me next, his face glowing with smug arrogance. I reached out as if to steady myself, my knuckles lightly brushing against his wrist.
Ding! Successfully delivered rapid onset cerebral stroke and mental disorder debuff to Dr. Lambert. Merit score, -1.
I then took 2 loose, careless steps toward the edge of the stage, stumbling slightly near the front row of VIP seats. My white coat brushed against Lucas's designer suit and James Lombard's shoulder.
Ding! Triggered latent AIDS, rabies, and organ decay escalation in Lucas. Merit score, -1. Ding! Delivered chronic neurological migraine debuff to James Lombard. Merit score, -1.
4 lethal karmic death sentences delivered in less than 3 seconds, completely unnoticed by anyone. Lawrence shoved Julian aside, grabbing the central stage microphone. His face was bright red with absolute triumph as he roared into the mic.
You have seen it live with your own eyes.
Lawrence shouted, his voice echoing across national television.
Lancaster Group holds the ultimate future of human medicine. Our stock will reach the absolute limit.
Suddenly, a deafening, ear-splitting audio feedback shrieked through the auditorium speakers. Every single microphone went dead. In the exact same second, the grand 100-foot 4K LED screen behind Lawrence flickered violently from corporate blue to static black. Up in the main broadcast control room, dozens of Lancaster technicians screamed in sheer panic.
What's happening?
Our network feed has been hijacked. Someone bypassed our firewalls. We can't override it. The master satellite signal is coming from an international offshore server.
Across every television screen, mobile app, and live stream on Earth, the feed locked onto a single, crystal-clear, high-definition video. The giant 100-foot screen behind Lawrence lit up in brilliant 4K resolution. The image displayed was the interior of a dark, damp interrogation room. Detective Lawson's sinister face filled the screen. 80 million live viewers watched in stunned silence as she pulled out her electric stun baton, switched off the wall camera, and sneered into the lens.
If I say, you're guilty, you're guilty. Bring in the batons. Beat a rape and murder confession out of him.
The camera panned over to show Chairman Lawrence stepping out from the side door, holding a forced employment contract.
Lancaster Group can make you famous. Or we can bury you underground forever. Think about your parents before you choose, Arthur.
The auditorium went deathly silent. Lawrence's eyes nearly popped out of his head. His face turned ashen white. Before anyone could process the shock, the screen cut to a second video segment, the dimly lit rental apartment. Lucas was shown examining cheap, dried leaves, laughing hysterically alongside Wendy. Wendy's voice boomed through the high-powered stadium speakers.
I betrayed my stupid ex-boyfriend just to steal these formulas for you. That idiot Arthur actually tried to trick me into thinking he had superpowers. I almost choked to death laughing.
Lucas's face on screen turned dark and venomous.
Crushing a bug like Arthur only takes us 1 second.
The crowd began to buzz with outrage. Journalists started screaming, pointing their cameras up at the screen. Then came the final, devastating blow. High-resolution official medical files from the Valoria Central Hospital flooded the massive display screen. Wendy's full name, headshot, advanced HIV-positive diagnosis, rotting optic nerve test results, and a recent pregnancy report with the words printed in bold red ink. Father, unknown.
No, no!
A blood-curdling screech echoed from the press section. Hearing her deepest, darkest secrets broadcast to 80 million people, Wendy completely lost her mind. In her blind, desperate panic to escape the flashing camera lenses, she tried to vault over the press railing, only to catch her broken high heel on a thick bundle of broadcast cables. She tumbled headfirst off the press gallery, crashing violently onto the hardwood stage floor, directly in front of the main broadcast cameras. Her dark sunglasses flew off, skidding across the floor. The main 4K tracking camera automatically zoomed in on her face. The entire world gasped in horror. Her eyes were completely bloodshot, rotting, and clouded over with thick gray pus, looking like the eyes of a decaying corpse. Beside her on the floor, her cheap bouquet of red roses lay scattered in the dirt.
Turn off the screen! Turn it off!
Lawrence roared frantically, his blood pressure soaring to lethal levels. He lunged toward the control console and suddenly froze dead in his tracks. A sharp, unbearable, tearing agony exploded deep inside his stomach. It felt as though 1,000 jagged razors were chewing through his internal organs from the inside out. Lawrence clutched his abdomen, his eyes rolling back in sheer agony. Suddenly, a massive, violent fountain of thick, jet-black blood spewed out of Lawrence's mouth, splattering across the pristine white podium and the glass microphone. Stage 4 acute stomach cancer and instant organ failure triggered simultaneously. He collapsed onto the floor, twitching in a pool of his own dark blood.
Chairman Lawrence!
Dr. Lambert shrieked in terror, rushing forward to help. But a loud, wet snapping sound rang out inside Dr. Lambert's brain. His face instantly contorted into a bizarre, crooked angle. His left eye drooped shut, his mouth twisted sideways, and thick, clear drool began leaking uncontrolled down his chin. The rapid onset stroke and mental disorder struck his nervous system at full force. Dr. Lambert dropped to his knees, his hands curling into spastic claws. He grabbed the central microphone, pulled it to his mouth, and began barking madly into the speaker like a rabid stray dog.
Woof, woof, rough, rough.
Madness! They've all gone mad!
Investors screamed in the front row. Down in the VIP aisle, Lucas suddenly clutched his throat, gasping for air as his skin turned a mottled necrotic black. The latent rabies and terminal AIDS flared into absolute overdrive. Lucas fell out of his high-end VIP leather chair, thrashing violently on the carpet floor, foaming at the mouth, his legs kicking wildly in dog-like spasms as his internal organs rapidly rotted away.
Help! Someone call an ambulance!
James Lombard clutched his skull, screaming in blood-curdling agony as his severe neurological migraine hit him like red-hot iron needles driving directly into his brain cells. Wilma tried to drag Wendy away from the center stage, but as she opened her mouth to scream, her severe oral cancer ruptured her throat blood vessels. Crimson blood soaked straight through her thick neck bandages, leaving her wheezing helplessly on the floor beside her blind, weeping daughter. Chaos! Total and absolute pandemonium. This is what happened when you play funny things with me. All of you deserved it. There, thousands of elite investors trampled over each other in a desperate stampede toward the exits. Journalists went wild, screaming into their mics, recording every second of the gruesome demise of the city's top elite. The online live chat crashed completely under the weight of hundreds of millions of shocked, terrified messages. Through the roaring storm of screams, flashing cameras, pools of blood, and barking executives, I stood right in the absolute center of the stage. My crisp white lab coat remained completely spotless. My arms rested casually at my sides. I looked down at the writhing, dying snakes on the floor, then raised my eyes to look straight into the lens of the final active camera. A cold, calm, satisfied smile touched my lips as the master satellite feed finally flickered and cut to static. Within 30 minutes of the live broadcast, the high-pitched wail of federal sirens echoed across the city. The heavy glass doors of the Valoria International Convention Center were kicked wide open as dozens of elite, uncorrupted federal marshals stormed the main hall, weapons drawn. Detective Lawson, who was frantically trying to sneak out through a service exit, was shoved flat onto her face against the cold tile floor.
Detective Lawson, you are under arrest for state corruption, evidence tampering, attempted murder, and civil rights violations.
The lead marshal shouted, snapping heavy iron handcuffs around her wrists. Nearby, Lawrence Lancaster was loaded onto a mobile hospital gurney, an oxygen mask strapped to his face as he violently vomited black blood. Federal agents slapped handcuffs directly onto his wrists, securing him to the gurney frame under criminal indictment. Beside him, Dr. Lambert was hauled away in chains, his eyes rolling in opposite directions, drool running down his chin as he continued to bark mindlessly like a rabid stray dog into the open air. Before the stock market closed that very afternoon, the Lancaster Pharmaceutical Group suffered the most catastrophic collapse in corporate history. Its stock price plummeted by 99.9%. Trading was permanently halted, and federal liquidators seized every bank account and asset owned by the family overnight. The Lancaster dynasty was erased from existence. Meanwhile, inside the VIP lounge on the second floor of the convention center, old man Lionel Lombard and his grandson James were sweating profusely. their fingers flying across their phones as they desperately tried to liquidate their offshore assets before the media scandal dragged them down with the Lancasters. But the lounge door was pushed open. Stella stepped through the threshold, looking breathtaking in an immaculate black business suit. Flanking her were Harrison's top international legal team and 10 towering bodyguards in dark suits, and walking right beside Stella was a healthy, radiant young woman, Melody Lombard. Lionel's phone slipped from his trembling hands, clattering onto the carpet.
Melody? What? What are you doing with them?
Melody looked at her grandfather with cold, profound disappointment.
Grandpa, you tried to destroy the man who saved my life.
Melody said, her voice filled with quiet authority.
You used my terminal illness as corporate leverage. Today, I am using my 30% inherited voting shares to back Miss Stella.
Stella stepped forward, placing a thick stack of legal documents onto the glass table.
Mr. Lombard, under the terms of the $500 billion stock contract you signed, combined with Mr. Harrison's $900 billion capital backing, we now hold a 65% controlling interest in the Lombard Tobacco Corporation.
Stella looked down at the old patriarch with cold composure.
Effective immediately, you are removed from the board of directors and forced into mandatory, non-voting retirement. As for James...
Stella glanced at James, who had turned as pale as a corpse.
He is stripped of all corporate titles, evicted from all family properties, and named as the prime suspect in an upcoming corporate tax fraud investigation.
No.
James screamed, falling to his knees as his world shattered into dust.
You can't do this to me.
Lionel collapsed back into his leather armchair, looking like he had aged 20 years in 20 seconds. The legendary tycoon who had dominated the nation's economy for 50 years was left broken, powerless, and completely defeated. Late that night, inside the isolation wing of the Valoria Federal Prison Hospital, dim, flickering yellow lights cast long shadows down the quiet steel corridor. I walked slowly along the concrete floor, my hands tucked inside the pockets of my long black coat. I stopped outside a heavy steel-barred cell. Inside sat Lucas and James Lombard, who had been arrested 2 hours prior for secondary financial fraud. Lucas was an emaciated, shivering wreck lying on the cold concrete. His skin had turned a necrotic dark purple from organ decay, his body racked by constant, agonizing spasms from his latent rabies and AIDS. Beside him, James sat curled in a fetal position, clutching his head and shrieking softly from the piercing, non-stop migraines tearing through his brain cells. Hearing my footsteps, Lucas crawled toward the steel bars on his hands and knees, weeping tears of dark blood.
Arthur, please!
Lucas choked out, gasping for air.
I was wrong. I'll give you all my money. I'll crawl like a dog. Please, cure me. It hurts so much.
I stood outside the cell, looking down at them with icy, impassive eyes. I slowly raised my hand and lightly brushed my fingertips against the iron bars.
Ding. Locked terminal debuffs in permanent equilibrium. Targets will experience maximum agonizing pain without dying for 50 years.
A tiny, invisible pulse of system energy locked their sicknesses permanently inside their nerve endings. They would never die from their diseases, nor would they ever find a single second of relief. 50 years, I said, my voice flat and emotionless. That was the prison sentence Wendy demanded for me in court. Enjoy every single day of it. I turned my back on their desperate, agonizing screams and walked away into the darkness. On the outer, impoverished edges of the city, sitting in the shadows of a polluted industrial district, stood a rundown, foul-smelling public charity hospice. Evicted from their lakeside villa following bank foreclosures, stripped of every cent, and blacklisted by every private hospital in the country, Wendy and Wilma had been dropped off here by a charity ambulance. Inside a tiny, drafty room with peeling paint, Wendy lay on a squeaky, rusted iron bed. She was completely blind. Dark, rotted HIV lesions covered her pale, withered skin. Her breathing was thin and raspy, her lungs failing from advanced terminal complications. Beside her bed sat Wilma on a wooden stool. Her neck was wrapped in dirty, yellowed gauze. The severe oral cancer had destroyed her vocal cords completely, leaving her mute, weeping tears of silent despair. On the brick wall opposite their bed, a tiny, flickering black and white television set was playing the evening news broadcast.
And in tonight's top story, Dr. Arthur,
the world-renowned founder of Harrison International Veterinary and Medical Research, was awarded the Global Humanitarian Gold Medal today.
On the screen, a high-definition video showed me standing on a grand stage alongside Stella and Harrison. I wore a tailored suit, looking handsome, powerful, and godlike, flanked by world leaders and surrounded by roaring crowds of adoring supporters. Wendy's sightless, bloodshot eyes stared blankly at the ceiling. Hearing my name echo from the tiny television speaker, her delicate frame trembled violently. Overwhelming, suffocating regret flooded her soul. This was the man who had loved her unconditionally. The man who had taken away her blindness, saved her life, and given her everything. The man she had betrayed, mocked, and tried to throw into a cage for 50 years. Tears of thick, dark, crimson blood leaked out from her hollow, rotted eye sockets, tracing long lines down her sunken cheeks. Wendy raised her trembling, withered arm toward the television screen, reaching into the empty, cold air, letting out a broken, raspy sob.
Arthur, I'm sorry.
Her weak, trembling hand hovered in the air for a second, then dropped heavily onto the filthy bedsheets. The television screen continued to glow bright and warm, but inside the dark, drafty room, no one answered. The story had ended, and the world had moved on without them. 6 months passed in the blink of an eye. During those 6 months, a chilling legend swept through Valoria's medical and legal circles. Drained of their savings and rejected by every hospital, my enemies paid the ultimate price for their betrayal, leaving behind a solemn warning for the rest of the world. With all local accounts fully settled, I officially signed my foreign exchange papers. On a bright, clear morning, Harrison's ultra-luxury private jet idled on the tarmac of the international airport. Stella stood beside the runway, her long coat fluttering in the sea breeze. She held a gold leather portfolio containing legal documents that transferred 50% ownership of her newly forged multi-billion-dollar global corporate empire directly into my name.
Dr. Arthur, please accept this.
Stella said sincerely, holding out the pen.
Everything I built was created using your medical notes and guidance. Half of this empire belongs to you.
I looked at the documents, then looked into her clear, beautiful eyes. I gently pushed the portfolio back into her hands and smiled softly. "Keep it," I said warmly. "You managed it, you built it, and you earned it. Besides, money has long ceased to mean anything to me." I reached out and lightly tapped the small crystal locket hanging around her neck, inside which sat 2 tiny worn scraps of ripped paper. "Just remember," I added with a wink, "you still have 2 notes left." Stella clutched the locket against her chest, her eyes shimmering with deep gratitude. She knew better than anyone that those 2 tiny scraps of paper were worth more than the central banks of entire nations. I turned around, walked up the stairs into the luxury jet, and took my seat. As the engines roared and the plane lifted into the blue sky, I looked out the window one last time as Valoria faded into the horizon. My past was officially behind me. In the lush, coastal hills of the nation of Argon, a vast, green sanctuary estate spanned thousands of acres overlooking the Sapphire Ocean. Nestled at the foot of the hill, beside a peaceful cobblestone road, sat a charming 2-story building with a warm wooden sign hanging over the door, Arthur Veterinary Clinic. Inside, the morning sun streamed through sparkling glass windows. I wore a simple white doctor's coat over casual clothes, leaning against the wooden counter while sharing a bowl of fresh treats with Buster. Buster, now a sleek, healthy, and fiercely loyal dog, wagged his tail happily in the warm patch of sunlight on the floor.
Boss, fresh flowers are set up in the lobby.
Alice walked out from the back room wearing a neat uniform, her bright smile making the entire clinic feel warm and lively. Suddenly, a small local girl pushed open the front glass door, carrying a tiny cardboard box.
Dr. Arthur, please help.
The girl cried softly.
I found a little stray kitten by the road. Its leg is broken, and it has a terrible fever.
Bring it here, little one, I said with a gentle smile. I knelt down, placing my palm flat against the shivering kitten's back. A faint golden glow flowed beneath my skin. In less than 3 seconds, the kitten's broken bone knitted together perfectly, and its burning fever vanished.
Ding! Successfully cured feline patient with 2 severe illnesses. Merit score +10.
The little kitten purred happily, leaping out of the box and rubbing its head against my shoe. The little girl gasped in joy, thanking me repeatedly before skipping out the door. Every single animal I healed continued to steadily increment my system merit score, keeping my pathogenic constitution at peak superhuman levels. My life was tranquil, peaceful, and entirely my own. Yet, behind the modest veterinary clinic, hidden beyond the estate's high-tech security gates, lay a private airfield and a heavily guarded helipad. Because I was permanently banned from practicing human medicine in Valoria, I maintained a strict rule. I never officially treated human patients anywhere on Earth. Instead, a hidden world existed in the shadows. Foreign monarchs, global tycoons, and heads of state arrived in total secrecy on Harrison's private flights. Curated carefully by Stella and Harrison, these elite figures were permitted to walk through my estate's coastal gardens. I never brought out medical tools. I simply accidentally brushed my sleeve against them as I walked past, absorbing their terminal cancers, rare genetic defects, and incurable afflictions in a fraction of a second. In return, they paid astronomical consultation fees, billions in cash, and sprawling land deeds that funded animal sanctuaries, orphanages, and free wildlife rescues across the globe. Late afternoon arrived. Golden sunlight bathed the terrace overlooking the ocean. I sat in a comfortable rattan chair, sipping warm tea while casually scrolling through TikTok on my phone. A news report popped up on the screen highlighting the absolute prosperity of Stella's global medical conglomerate and the newly reformed, completely corrupt-free legal system back in Valoria. Suddenly, Alice's sharp high heels clicked softly against the stone tiles as she walked out onto the terrace holding a golden clipboard.
Boss,
Alice called out with a playful, bright grin.
a foreign prince just landed on Helipad 2. He claims he's willing to donate 3 private tropical islands to our wildlife foundation if you'll just accidentally brush past his shoulder while walking through the garden.
I set my teacup down on the table, letting out a soft, amused chuckle. I reached out, gently scratching Buster behind his ears as the dog let out a happy huff. "Tell him to wait in line," I said lazily, standing up and stretching my arms. "I have to finish feeding the dogs first." As I stood up, a brilliant, translucent golden system display flashed silently before my eyes.
Current merit points, 10,000. Host realm, transcendent shadow sovereign. Status, absolute immunity with peak superhuman physique.
I smiled faintly, turning my gaze toward the breathtaking sunset blazing across the open ocean. I had walked through betrayal, poverty, and malice, only to emerge as a master of my own destiny, a god walking in the shadows, having repaid every cruelty with absolute justice, and every kindness with eternal prosperity.